All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Board of Palm Beach County, I can't say that.
You're tired. I'm here.
Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners Workshop for August 29th, 2023. Madam Clerk, can we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Barnett.
Here.
Commissioner Baxter.
Here.
Commissioner Bernard.
Here.
Commissioner Marino.
Here.
Vice Mayor Sachs.
Here.
Mayor Weiss.
Here.
Commissioner Woodward.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Baxter, can you please lead us in our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance? Everybody who is able to, please stand.
Dear God, we are thankful for this day that you have given us, for its blessings, its opportunities, and its challenges. We pray for strength and guidance for each day as it comes, for each day's duties, for each day's problems. May we be challenged to give our best always, and may we be assured of your presence with us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
All right, as we're getting started, before we move on to our agenda, I just wanted to ask the board their pleasure if they want public comment. This is a workshop, so nothing's going to be voted on today, so it's at your pleasure whether or not you want to have that. We have one. Okay. All right, nobody seems to object. Commissioner Sachs, you're recognized.
No, I think it's a great idea. We're here to hear the public, so go right ahead. Whatever your suggestion, it's a good one.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Are there any additions, deletions, or substitutions to the agenda? Madam Administrator?
I'm sorry. Turn my mic on, too. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board, there are no additions, deletions, or substitutions.
Thank you very much. With that, would somebody like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bernard, a second by Commissioner Marino. All in favor, all opposed, that motion carries 7-0.
6:45.
Okay, very good. All right. And also, just to remind everybody, our workshop, we've changed the format, so there are no time-certain items. We'll move through them as expeditiously as we can, but it's certainly at the board's discretion on how quickly they want to move. Okay, and now we'll move to regular agenda. We have an item for the clerk and comptroller. This is item 3A, 1 and 2.
I make a motion that we receive the file and approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Marino, a second by Commissioner Baxter. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, all opposed. That item 3A, 1 and 2 has been approved by the board. Okay, moving on to our first item on our workshop session, item 4A, and this is an overview of the airports. Welcome, Ms. Beebe.
Good morning.
Mr. Mayor, just hold on 1 second. For item 3A1 and 2, one of them is a receive and file, and the other one is to approve. Did you? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right.
Go to the next slide. So, good morning. The purpose of this workshop is to provide a brief overview of the county's airport system, including its funding sources, air service, and upcoming projects. The county owns and operates a system of 4 airports, and policy is established by the Board of County Commissioners. The Department of Airports is responsible for the operation, management, and maintenance of the county's airport system. The department is comprised of 168 employees in 5 divisions, including finance and administration, marketing and communications, which includes air service development, airport planning and development, which oversees all capital projects, real estate and concession, which oversees all airport revenue contracts, including airline agreements, operation maintenance. Operations is responsible for the overall safety and security of the airport, and maintenance is responsible for maintaining the airport facilities, including airfields. And although we have a relatively small number of employees, the airport community is made up of a large number of businesses, including concessionaires, fixed-based operators who run the private general aviation facilities, airlines, airline service providers, and a number of commercial tenants. The revenue generated from the various businesses operating on the county's airports support the operation and maintenance of the airport system. The Department of Airports also partners with a number of agencies, including Palm Beach County Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting and the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. Their budgets for the airport services are funded by the Department of Airports. The Palm Beach County Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting, their budget about $8.2 million for airport services, and the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office is about $9.8 million for the upcoming fiscal year. So the Palm Beach International Airport currently has 11 airlines that operate at PBI year-round and 2 that operate seasonally, Air Canada and Sun Country. The latest traffic report indicated almost 7.4 million total passengers traveled through PBI in the preceding 12-month period, and the FAA forecasts we will hit 8 million passengers by 2025, with 173 annual operations. PBI has also been named one of the best domestic airports in the United States and was named the 7th best in the world by Condé Nast Traveler in 2020. So how do we attract airlines, and what is air service development? Air service development is a broad term that encompasses a variety of activities with the ultimate goal of retaining existing air service and improving air access and capacity. In addition to adding new routes, it also includes increasing the size of aircraft, increasing frequencies, increasing competition, and reducing seasonality. Price and convenience are significant drivers in passenger choice. Additional frequencies and competition ultimately result in lower prices and a greater number of choices. So how do airlines make route decisions? Moving aircraft is a multi-million-dollar decision. Airlines serve markets where they know they can generate profits. In making those determinations, airlines consider many factors, including the size of the market, the fare environment, will the airline make any money? Airline competition, will the route be successful, or will there be a competitive response from another airline? For example, several years ago, we had Sun Country come into the market and serve Minneapolis. This was pre-pandemic. Delta immediately had a competitive response, and Sun Country stopped serving at the airport. The good news today is we all have 3 airlines that are serving Minneapolis: Delta, Sun Country, and Allegiant. So we have overcome that one. They also look at seasonality, customer demographics, including income, ethnicity, age, and education, the region's economy, insights from the community, airport facility costs, and incentives. So what are our opportunities and obstacles? So the good news is PBI has a really great story to tell. Our catchment area includes Palm Beach County, Martin County, St. Lucie County, and Indian River, which is now larger than Fort Lauderdale's. We have a world-class destination. People want to come here. We have a strong economic base. No one airline dominates at PBI. PBI is easy, convenient, and our costs are low. Our projected cost per enplanement for fiscal year 2024 is $3.92 per passenger. We offer generous incentives for new service in addition to having very low costs. Our primary weaknesses are there are 2 large airports just to the south of us with higher frequencies and lower airline fares. Air service also continues to be impacted by rising airfares in general, pilot shortages, and airspace constraints based on FAA air traffic control tower employee shortages. In order to grow air service, our primary short-term goals are to extend the seasonal markets like Chicago, Dulles, and Houston, to increase frequencies on existing routes to achieve parity with our competitors, and to increase nonstop service with ultra-low-cost carriers to introduce more fair competition. So the good news is we're currently projecting an 8% increase in the market this winter season, which will translate into more passengers. This season, we do expect additional gains, including early resumptions of seasonal service and increased frequencies. And you'll probably note there that JetBlue with LAX, they will be starting a little bit earlier this year in November, so we're very excited about that early start. We also continue to see the ultra-low-cost carriers continue to add new routes and expand frequencies, including Breeze, Frontier, Spirit, Avelo, Sun Country, and Allegiant. So why are the county's airports important to our community? In addition to providing connections to the rest of the world, they also generate a significant economic impact. FDOT published a study in 2022 concluding that PBI created more than 31,000 jobs in the local community, resulting in a $1.5 billion in payroll and generated a total economic impact of $4.6 billion. The study used calendar year 2021 data to quantify the economic impact, which suggests the actual impact could be much greater since we are looking backwards instead of forwards. The county's general aviation airports are also important economic engines. The North County Airport created 467 jobs, earning $22.4 million in payroll, and generated a total economic impact of $77.3 million. The Lantana Airport created 772 jobs, earning $4.17 million in payroll, and generated a total economic impact of $144 million. And even the county's smallest airport in Pahokee created 33 jobs, earning $1.7 million in payroll, and generated a total economic impact of $5.7 million. So this brings me to my next point. The county's airport system is a large economic engine with no ad valorem tax support. The Department of Airports operates as an enterprise fund. Operation and maintenance costs are funded by user fees paid by the airlines, business operating at the county's airports, and passengers. Revenues consist of aeronautical revenues from airlines, fixed-based operators, and other similar airport businesses, and non-aeronautical revenues such as airport parking, concessions, and commercial real estate development. Capital improvements are funded by federal and state grants, passenger facility charges, which is a $4.50 charge on each airline and plane airline ticket, revenue bonds, and airport revenues. The county is considered an airport sponsor. By accepting grant funding, airport sponsors make binding commitments to assure the public's investment in aviation will be protected. And here's a high-level breakdown of the funding sources. As you can see, the lion's share of local revenue is generated by parking, car rental, concessions, and other rentals. An airport sponsor's responsibilities are commonly referred to as grant obligations or grant assurances. There are a total of 39 assurances that apply to the acceptance of federal funding. Airport sponsors are prohibited from taking any action that could preclude it from complying with its grant assurances. Airport sponsors are required to operate an airport for all aeronautical users without unjust discrimination, which was the grant assurance that the county was determined to be in violation by banning the jet activity at Lantana. Airport sponsors are prohibited from granting exclusive rights, which means an airport can be found to be in violation of exclusive rights obligations by refusing to make aeronautic property available. And airport sponsors may only use airport revenues for airport purposes. In accordance with federal revenue diversion policy, airport sponsors may not use airport revenues for general government purposes. So what is the role of the airlines? The signatory airlines, which are the airlines that enter into long-term agreements with PBI, the Deltas, United, Southwest, JetBlue, American, assume a significant responsibility for the cost of the county's airport system. Airline rates and charges for the upcoming fiscal year are established by estimating the cost of the county's airport system. At the end of each fiscal year, if the actual costs are greater than the estimated cost, the signatory airlines are obligated to pay the differential. Rates and charges may be adjusted mid-year in the event the county determines there may be a shortfall. By assuming this risk, the signatory airlines are entitled to an amount equal to 35% of net remaining revenues, which means the county generally cuts a check to the signatory airlines at the end of each year. Just this past fiscal year, I think it was about $7 million that went back to the airlines. So Fort Lauderdale's cost per enplanement for fiscal year 24 is budgeted at $9.99, which is $1 higher than its last year's fiscal year's budget of $8.99. PBI's budgeted cost per enplanement for 2023 is $4.48, and 2024 is $3.92. Generally, our actual costs come in lower than our estimated costs, resulting in a check back to the airlines. The average medium hub cost per enplanement in Florida for 2021 was about $7.40, and the average large hub cost per enplanement in Florida for 2021 was about $13.57. Miami is currently, I think, around $20 per enplanement. So you can see we are the low-cost leader in South Florida, and probably in the state of Florida for our size airport. In terms of capital projects, The department currently has a 5-year capital program of almost $340 million. Some of the projects we currently have in progress include Central Airfield improvements, which is a major rehabilitation of the crosswind runway. That runway is currently shut down for the work to move forward, which is about $20.2 million. Switchgear replacement, which is electrical work. The Concourse B expansion package 1, which is currently in progress, which is $13.5 million. The Concourse B package 2, which will be interior finishes and utility apron and site work, and the full expansion, which hopefully will be occurring sometime next year. The terminal roof replacement on level 3 of the terminal, a 400 hertz replacement, chiller replacement, garage, which you're all probably aware of, and bridge repairs, and a new aircraft rescue and firefighting facility, which is estimated to be about $19 million. Like I said, we pay for all of the services we receive, including fire rescue and their facilities. So an update on the Phase 1 Concourse B expansion. We've started it. It will include the expansion of restroom facilities and construction of a new sit-down restaurant. We had hoped to get the project kicked off a little bit earlier. It was delayed as the result of a survey that found some asbestos-like materials on, I think it's the steel?
Correct.
Which had to be mitigated before we could actually start some of the interior improvements, but they have started the exterior improvements. And you can see in that picture, they're actually cutting the concrete out from the ground to move the utilities. So it's quite a bit of work. So due to increased costs, we're working on additional funding for the full build-out. However, we anticipate the next phase will be to renovate the remainder of the existing terminal space, which will also reduce impacts to the customers once we move into the final phase of construction. The Concourse B expansion package, as I mentioned before, is about $13.5 million, and the remainder is about another $79 million. When we first started this project, it was estimated to be about $42 million. So you can see that the cost escalated quite a bit. It was not as a result of any extra bells and whistles. In fact, we pulled out a lot of red pins. It's just escalating costs of labor and supplies. So the final build-out will include about 56,000 square feet of extra space, an overall refresh, expanded seating, expanded restrooms, elevated ceiling heights, electrochromatic glass in key locations, which is the glass that slowly turns dark as the sun comes out. New restaurant spaces, an integrated nursing suite, and infrastructure for 2 loading bridges. We are also seeking funding for the actual loading bridges themselves to connect at the end of the project. So this is what the overall look and feel of Concourse B will be at the end of the project. You can see it's lighter, brighter, cleaner. So along with that project, our food, beverage, and retail concessions are ending in 2024, the end of 2024. All of your offices have probably heard from many, many lobbyists, so I'm going to give you an update on that as well. We expect to have it out by the end of this year, the RFP. It will include 2 packages. Proposers may propose on both packages, but they will only be awarded 1 package to ensure that we have competition within the facility. Competition is important from a pricing standpoint. It's also important if one concessionaire fails, you have someone else to pick up the slack. So as I mentioned, each package will include food, beverage, retail, and vending opportunities on the concourses and in the main terminal. The prime concessionaires must have airport experience, and all of the package should include local and regional partners and products to provide a sense of place. Our goal is to elevate the customer experience. We're looking for a sophisticated but not exclusive feeling throughout the terminal to provide a sense of place through innovative design features and creating engaging customer experiences. We're really asking our concessionaires to focus on local, regional, and national concepts for food and beverage, not store brand concepts that you've never heard of before, like Stingeray's, which we currently have in the terminal. We want to make sure that it has the look and feel of Palm Beach County in South Florida, which is not just Palm Beach. So on the horizon, we currently are in conceptual design for a project to connect concourses A and B's through a new post-security space, which will include replacing the existing skylight with a hard ceiling and clear story windows. The importance of replacing that skylight is that they're leaky and they are hard to maintain. So we're looking to put something in similar to what we're doing at the end of Concourse B. It will also be better for hurricane resiliency. We'll be looking to put in new terrazzo flooring, expanding the security checkpoints, and also a new, larger common use lounge. If you've been in the common use lounge on B, it's fantastic. We need a bigger lounge. And also space for engaging experiences like improved art displays. So we're also starting to look at necessary improvements to the airfield to ensure PBI has enough capacity to handle demand. Due to the intersection of runways 10L and 28 right and 1432 and the limited length of 10R and 28 left, PBI currently operates as a single runway during peak periods. Because of the intersection, you can't have aircraft taking off in the crosswind and on the primary runway at the same time, and the short runway is barely usable for the aircraft that we service at PBI. So with increasing operations over time, PBI will functionally operate as a single runway airport, resulting in increased delays. Airfield improvements must be based on projected increases in operations. We anticipate bringing the project back for additional discussion in a workshop in 2024. So just an update on some of our general aviation projects. The Palm Beach County Park Airport, the Lantana Airport, we have the South Side redevelopment phases 3 and 4 under design. That's about $4.5 million, which includes additional landside parking and security improvements and general infrastructure. We're also completing the Part 150 noise compatibility study, which is about $800,000. The safety assessment study, which is about another $300,000, and focusing on jet operations and the impact to the airport generally. We're also working on a master plan update, which is about another $500,000. And finally, we're working on a updated airport noise and operations system, which will include a public-facing dashboard to allow users to see operations without staff involvement. We're including pricing for additional noise monitors, and all available options, including pricing, will be included in the RFP. The contract will be coming back to the Board of County Commissioners for approval, and we have budgeted about $500,000 for that project alone, and it will include a operations tracking system for not only Palm Beach International Airport, Lantana, North County, and Pahokee. The North Palm Beach General Aviation Airport, we have approximately $5 million for hangar construction, airport expansion, apron expansion, a master plan update, which that will be in progress in the near future. And for the Glades Airport, we have a fuel farm replacement, a emergency generator for that fuel farm. We just completed a runway and taxiway rehab of $2.5 million, and we will also be wrapping up our master plan update for that airport as well. And I want to give a little bit more detail on the upcoming project at the North Palm Beach General Aviation Airport. So we are hopeful to have the environmental assessment out by the end of this year for the project to extend the crosswind runway and taxiway F, and also provide for the construction of a federal contract tower. We also anticipate issuing 2 fixed-based operator opportunities. The current agreement for both the North County Airport and the Pahokee Airport ends in September 2025. We anticipate the RFP to be issued in early 2024. We have not quite figured out how we want to package those 2 solicitations. We previously packaged North County and the Pahokee airports together because it's very difficult to have somebody be willing to manage the Pahokee Airport. When we've done it independently, we pay for that service versus someone agreeing to provide the service as part of an overall fixed-based operation. We're likely to recommend doing that again just to ensure that we're not incurring a lot of costs for the management of that airport. But like I said, we will be issuing 2 packages. One will include more development opportunities than the other. And with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, you're recognized.
By the way, thank you for all you do. I know you give a report every time we have a meeting at the Tourist Development Council, and I appreciate it very much. I have a couple of things I wonder if I could bring up at this time. The route decisions, we have a number of legislators that travel from this county, also Martin and St. Lucie counties, to Tallahassee. Mm-hmm. Why can't we hook up with these incentives that the state of Florida does give, to airlines like Delta and American to fly out of Fort Lauderdale and Miami? Let me put it this way. Can we request that the state of Florida give incentives to airlines flying out of PBI, as they do to Fort Lauderdale and Miami.
So I'm not aware of any incentives that are actually given by the state of Florida for air
There are.
service.
They give them sales tax incentives on gasoline that fly out of, and I don't want to say it was only Delta, it could be others as well, and I'm not.
So we certainly will take a look into that, but we do offer incentives already, and we're the low-cost leader in Florida. We're constantly working air service, and we always bring up Tallahassee. Regional air service is expensive, and you need to ensure that you're filling the plane every single day both ways, which is the struggle with Tallahassee. We did previously have service from Silver Airways, but that service ended several years ago. As far as our incentives, we actually provide a full complement of incentives. For new air service, we waive all gate charges, all landing fee charges, terminal rental fees. The only thing that we don't waive is joint use fees and baggage handling fees. But beyond that, you can pretty much operate almost for free at PBI for 2 years. So we do offer very, very generous incentives. It's not a result of incentives. It's more about, can they make money on the flight? If they can't make money on the flight, they will not move the aircraft.
Do you think we could request from American and Delta? I know American has a smaller airlines during session, and session starts now in January. If we could request that, request a quote from American, because you see, you're dealing with a large county, Palm Beach, as well as our surrounding counties. If you add up the number of legislators and lobbyists that go back and forth during session, we could fill a plane. In fact, those planes, believe me, I don't even want to get into it, but we can fill a plane. And if you need any help, I'll be more than happy to help you to connect with the folks in Tallahassee. We could give incentives to American and Delta to have those small planes. I'll never fly Silver again.
I understand.
That's like, you get religious, when you're in a Silver flight. But, and I don't mean that badly to Silver, however, let's see if we can't get our flagships, American and Delta, too. And I'll work with you on that.
So we might have more success with one of the charter operators operating out of the airport. So we could reach out to some of the charter operators and see what the cost might be per seat if they were willing to do charter service. There are a number of operators currently operating at PBI. I know that there's another one that's looking to come into market. So those would be operations out of the private terminal. And since they're smaller aircraft, handling about 30 people, it's probably more likely that you would be able to get that sort of service than one of the larger aircraft.
I'll be more than happy to work with you before January. And if I could, Mayor, could I ask a second question? And that is valet service out of PBI. We don't have it. I would request that we look into the cost effectiveness of having valet service. If anything, Palm Beach deserves valet service at our airport. If we've got a putting green and all the beauty that we have here at that PBI, I would request a cost effectiveness review of having valet at PBI. And then the last one, if I could, Mayor, is the Pahokee Airport. It is so important for the development of that Glades region to have a viable and active airport. And again, I encourage us to work on that because that will develop that area so quickly if we can be able to, and I know that funding is always, we don't give you any money, but if we could get a study possibly into what we can do to enhance service, airline service, and private jet service into Pahokee, it would enhance and encourage and promote economic development in that area. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Commissioner Marino, then Woodward, Baxter, and Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here. I know I requested this a while back because I really wanted to have us all brought up to speed on what RFPs were out there, what was the process of them, and thank you to the board for Pop Stroke last week. I did have a couple of questions. We did a lease agreement with an EV plane a couple years ago, maybe a year ago. How's
Yes.
that going?
So we currently have a lease agreement with Ferrovial for the development of a eVTOL landing and takeoff site. We've been working with the FAA and Ferrovial to try to move that through the system. This is a very new type of operation. We're the first airport in the entire United States with this sort of operation being proposed, and frankly, the FAA is struggling to figure out how this will work in the rest of the system from an airspace perspective. We currently are trying to figure out what is the likely environmental review that will occur for this, whether it'll be an environmental assessment, an environmental impact statement. Certainly, it will not be a categorical exclusion, but so until we work through those issues with the FAA, that's unlikely to move forward. I would guess at least in the next year, it's going to take us a while to work through those issues. It is very, very slow. It is very, very painful. But it will ultimately happen, whether it's on this site or some other site in Palm Beach County. They may determine that because of PBI and the class airspace that we're in, that they may not interact well together. We're evaluating all of that, and as I told everyone over and over again, we are currently engaged to Ferrovial. We are not married, and if it will impact our capacity or ability to operate the Palm Beach International Airport, we have the ability to terminate that contract. But we are continuing to work through the issues. It's just a very, very slow process.
Thank you. You talked about, on page 13, slide 26, anticipate bringing project back for additional discussion and future workshop in 2024 for the airfield.
Yes.
Given the rate at which people are coming to South Florida and Palm Beach International, is that something we see moving up from 2024?
So we are actually doing preliminary environmental analysis so that when we go back to the Federal Aviation Administration, we have all of the answers so that that project isn't further delayed. We have already taken it to our advisory board for discussion, our business advisory board, and are preparing to take it to our Citizens Committee on Airport Noise. We want to make sure that before we take it to that committee that we fully understand what the impacts to the community will be from a noise perspective and also from an environmental justice perspective. So we've met with the FAA to talk about exactly how an expanded runway would be used so that we're modeling it correctly. And we also want to provide some modeling to show to the community so they understand what will happen if we don't do the project and what will happen if we do the project. We currently believe the project will help alleviate some of the alternative headings that we're experiencing in high demand periods during peak season. But we want to make sure that that's an accurate statement that we're sharing with the community. The difficulty that we have is, everybody loves an airport unless you live next to an airport. So there's definitely some fear.
I think we know that. 'Cause
Yeah.
we get all the emails.
I know. So do I. On, making sure that we understand the community impacts and that we're being good neighbors. So we are working our way through that process, but we want to make sure when we bring it back to you that we are solid in our understanding of what the actual community impacts will be. And we want to be as transparent as possible.
Okay. And I know that we've been constantly okaying change orders on the striping. So how is that going?
So you're talking about the striping of the airfields?
Yeah.
So we currently have one airfield striper for 4 airports. Therefore, we have had to contract those services out. We'll be looking to add some additional positions. However, we're unable to fill the vacancies because that is a trade that there aren't that many people available to do. We currently have a contract out for a firm to come in, I believe this month, to complete probably about $1 million worth of work at the Palm Beach International Airport. The delays that we're experiencing with that project really has to do with the fact that they were in Fort Lauderdale and it's been raining a lot, and you cannot put paint down when it's raining. So our project has been delayed by Fort Lauderdale, which is part of the issue that you experience when you're using contractors versus in-house staff.
Thank you. I have no more questions, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Woodward, then Baxter and Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation and for the tours that I've had to come out and visit with you. I have a few questions. One being nonstop flights into out of PBI compared to Fort Lauderdale and Miami. I live in between both of Fort Lauderdale and PBI airports, and I realize that we're a destination airport, not one that offers connections. So as far as luring more nonstop flights, because I really hate connections, how much influence do we have on that compared to, having connecting airports south of us?
So we have a little bit of influence. We don't have a lot of influence. But part of our struggle is that we do have those two very large airports to the south of us. And, if you can put a flight into Fort Lauderdale, the airlines will put a flight in Fort Lauderdale. We do not have parity with the number of frequencies from Fort Lauderdale, which impacts customer choice, which also impacts cost. If you don't have the frequencies, it costs more. If you don't have the frequencies, the customers will choose to go to another airport. The thing that we can do as a community is to make sure that every single plane is full so that they understand that we need the air service. The other thing that we can continue to do is to tell our story, which is a very good story, as I mentioned before. We have very low airport costs, which is why we've attracted just about every ultra-low-cost carrier in the past couple of years. We have a great economic base in this community, growing number of businesses. We have a growing catchment area. I think it's only a matter of time before we start to really see that seasonality be reduced and the frequencies increase. But we have to reduce that seasonality and increase our frequencies before we get new solid nonstop routes from the legacy carriers. Ultra-low-cost carriers are willing to try a lot of different things. The issue with those is they fly 2 to 3 times a week, which is a challenge for business travelers. They will not fly ultra-low-cost carriers because of that. The prices are great, but there's the risk. What happens if a flight's canceled? Well, you get to wait until Thursday before you can go back, or you have to take another airline. So there is some issues with use of ultra-low-cost carriers, but they do serve an important function for our leisure travelers. I looked at Sun Country yesterday. I think they're having flights to Minneapolis for like $49, which is pretty amazing. Yeah. So yes, we're constantly working on adding additional nonstop service. We regularly attend air service conferences where we meet with each of the airlines to get an update on how we're doing. We do headquarter meetings. We did a little bit less of that during the pandemic, but we're gearing back up to do those things now. We're also looking hard at some international service, including more flights to Canada and potentially Latin America as well, because those flights are really short. So we think that we could, grow that type of service. And then ultimately, the goal would be to get a Europe flight, most likely London, but it's years down the road. But I do think that we will continue to see increased frequencies and less seasonality as the demand increases.
Okay, thank you. And as far as the legacy carriers, do we have any way to get like a loyalty club, an Admirals Club, or anything like that actually put into the airport as we're sending this? We're doing kind of a rehaul of some of the terminal areas. Is there any interest at all in one of them opening a loyalty club?
So Delta currently has their Crown Room, and we have the Common Use Lounge, which is not affiliated with a particular airline, but it's affiliated with American Express. Delta, a few years ago, reached out to us and said that they wanted to, make the club room larger. They've since said that, well, now they're not interested in doing that. At some point, they will come back and look to do that. We've identified a location as part of the Connector project where they could potentially put a larger lounge. They were talking about 10,000 square feet. But the other thing that we'll be putting in is, like I said, a larger common use lounge within that Connector area. People will go look for a common use lounge. They might not go look for a particular restaurant, but they will look for that lounge if you have the right credit card, because it's a perk. People enjoy hanging out in those spaces. So it will be, I'm thinking, we were talking about a 6,000 square feet space, which is a lot larger than the current space, which is about maybe 3,200 square feet.
Okay, well, along those lines, I have spoken to the Boca Resort. Oh, it's not called the resort anymore, whatever it's called now. And the Boca Raton, it's the resort. But they had had some interest in potentially having a small space like that for their hotel guests that come in, and to even check in when they get there, kind of have everything set up. Their luggage could be taken from that. And it looked very much like the Boca Resort. And I didn't know if other hotels would be interested too. But this would be a way for, as we're kind of revamping and making it a Palm Beach airport, it would also encourage their guests to fly into PBI instead of Fort Lauderdale. So I didn't know if that is part of your overall concessions. That I know that's not part of the vendors, but we have local hotels that are interested in having something like this, and I don't think it would require a huge space, but it would definitely encourage their guests to fly through PBI instead of another place, because they can start their vacation as soon as they land.
Well, they certainly can contact us. They haven't to date. We are a bit space constrained right this minute. I don't know where you would put something like that today. If they would want to have that pre-security or post-security, we do not have any post-security space until the connector project moves forward. Pre-security space is pretty tight, but you know, I never say never. I certainly would want to talk to them about that.
Okay. And as far as the concessions that are out, I have had numerous meetings with lots of them, and I love your idea of doing very much like a local Palm Beach County and, you know, South County, North County, all of us having, you know, businesses and restaurants represented. I think it's fantastic because I've been at other airports where as soon as you land, it's like, oh, you know, I'm at this island, I'm at this whatever place. And you know, if we can give all of our local businesses a chance to have some representation at the airport, and it would encourage them to explore all of the county. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
We have a fantastic airport, it's award-winning, but imagine if we had great food.
Commissioner Baxter, then Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Laura. Thank you for this. It was amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed my tour. What an amazing operation. Couple questions, couple follow-up things we've discussed previously. I haven't had a chance, but real quick, actually. So how many Palm Beach County employees fly to Tallahassee every year for Palm Beach County Days, approximately?
Very minimal. We primarily drive. We carpool up for the most part.
Forgive me, I said fly. I just meant in general that go up there.
Oh, that go up there. Public Affairs Department, for the most part, I'd say about 40, 35, 40.
I was just curious as far as like we were talking about plane capacity with a flight directly to Tallahassee, what that looked like as far as filling it and making that work, because it is valid, and I think all of us are in agreement. We would love
I agree.
a direct flight there. So I am looking forward to getting that information back that, you know, Commissioner Sachs had asked for. That'd be amazing. If you're okay, Mayor, a couple more questions. So it was brought to my attention that one of the reasons that a lot of people used to fly into Pahokee was actually because the cost of fuel there was less than some surrounding airports. It was like a big draw to get people to go there. So I didn't know, just to try to increase the utilization, is there a possibility for that on some level?
So that's something that we do not regulate, that the fixed-based operator actually does. That's something that we can take a look in. Our new contract to be a little bit tighter than it is with comparable to other similar airports. Like I said, that contract ends in 2025. Signature Aviation, I've frankly been a bit disappointed with in their operation of both the general aviation airports. Their focus is primarily on Palm Beach International. So I am hoping that we will get some new opportunities with new fixed-based operators at the Pahokee Airport and at the North County Airport.
Nice. And lastly, so I know that it has been like a hesitation, but we are having a problem with road safety and racers and so on. And so it had been brought to my attention that in other counties, they literally will use not highly used airports as a temporary drag strip for cars. Or not temporary, well, they use it permanently. And so I was asking if we could use Pahokee like every other weekend or so on as a temporary space for our people that have been kicked out of or no longer able to use the previously Moroso Airport, understanding that other places have been able, other counties have been able to come up with contracts that have limited any sort of liability, limited any sort of damage, it's very thorough and extensive, and I don't want this forever, but maybe just until, as a temporary solution for them, that a future track should get built. And I just didn't know, I know you had some hesitations to that, but
So
I wanted
there are a number of issues with that. It's a single runway airport, and it would require the entire airport to be shut down during those operations. We do have businesses that operate out there, so that is impacting those business operations. We also would require FAA approval. I think it's highly unlikely that they would approve it. However, if I'm directed to seek approval, certainly I make recommendations, you make policy. The other issue is that the fixed base operator manages the terminal facilities, which is the bathrooms and the parking area, which they would need to work out some sort of arrangement, because I can't imagine that, using that as that sort of activity that the individuals wouldn't want somewhere to park or go to the bathroom. So that's some logistical issues. We also have the VOR at that airport that is located not too far from the runway, which handles the approach for PBI and the South Florida airports. So if that was damaged, it could actually damage or interrupt operations at other airports. We also just rehabilitated that runway, so there's always the risk of damaging the runway fixtures, the signage and things like that, the runway safety area. If you do, that shuts the airport down for a longer time for it to be repaired. Obviously, the contractor would be responsible for the repairs, but it would also impact the ability of the airport to reopen. So it's not something I would recommend. However, if it's something that the board would like me to pursue, that's certainly something that we could take a look at.
Are there a lot of operations going on at night times and weekends?
I would have to go back and look. I can't imagine that there's a huge number of operations at nighttime and weekends.
All right, I mean, I would in favor be.
Well, actually, weekends, they're skydiving, so there is a lot of activity out there on weekends, just not at night.
And again, I was more so thinking a temporary solution until something else happened, and, you know, to see what fellow commissioners, I mean, we're just having problems with street racing, which is just trying to solve that problem, giving them a safe place to go. So I do appreciate your concerns, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnett, then Commissioner Bernard.
Thank you, Mayor Weiss, and thank you, Director Beebe. Nice seeing you again. Well, first of all, congratulations on your 5th place award for Palm Beach International. Congratulations to you and all your people in your department for putting us on the map. And thanks also. I had the opportunity to do a tour with you of Palm Beach International, and as you very well remember,
Yes.
on that day we had a terrible accident at Palm Beach County Park, Lantana. I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of an update on the investigation as to what happened, if you're able.
So there are reports that have been issued with the 2 recent accidents by the NTSB. I don't know if they're final reports yet. One was involving an issue with the aircraft. There was a problem with, I believe, a cable. The other one involving the individuals that appeared to come into the airport and then turn, and that ended up along Lantana Road. I don't know that there's been a conclusion of what caused that particular incident. I suspect it's pilot error.
Pilot error. And the first one you mentioned regarding a wire, was that involving a jet?
No.
No. I was made aware of a crash, well, not a crash, but the plane went off the side of the runway. It was a blown
Yes.
tire possibly
Yes.
involving a jet.
So there was a jet aircraft that had a blown tire, this was on Super Bowl Sunday, that deviated from the runway into the runway safety area after the tire blew, which is exactly where it should have ended up.
Okay.
That's what runway safety areas are for, is in the event you deviate from the runway, you end up in the runway safety area, not, out in the street or anywhere else. So it did exactly what it was supposed to do in that instance.
Understood. And you've heard all the complaints. You get the emails about the dangers, alleged dangers posed by jets at the Lantana Airport, but it seems we've had more incidents involving jets, aircraft that are not jets. And you, on page 14, item number 27, you mentioned a safety assessment study at the Lantana Airport. Is there any information you can share with us on the update as to that study and the potential need for an airport tower?
Sure. So we initiated a safety assessment for the implications of jet aircraft at that airport. It's looking at the airfield and whether there are any improvements that need to be made by the county to the airport facilities, including pavement strength. It's taking a look at safety areas. It's also reviewing airspace and potential airspace constraints. It's also doing a cost-benefit analysis of a potential air traffic control tower. That we did a kickoff meeting with the community regarding that particular assessment already. The community has requested that we do a status update. We expect to do that the end of this month or early October. We've been requested to do that as a virtual meeting so that we can have additional participation, so we will go ahead and do that. We are already, I think, pretty well into the analysis already, so we should have an update at that meeting at the beginning of October.
You mentioned a cost assessment for a tower at the Lantana Airport. Is that a cost that would be borne by the county, or would the FAA be responsible for that
So
cost?
this is an analysis of the cost versus the benefit of a tower, not the actual building costs. This assessment will include some order of magnitude for estimated costs. Frankly, it'll be a little bit of a wag. It's not a detailed estimate, but it will include the potential costs of the various improvements that may be recommended, including a federal contract tower. Those are generally funded through the federal contract tower program. We would be responsible for building the facility, which we would request federal funding for, and then the ongoing maintenance would be the obligation of the county, which it's not really terrible for a new airport contract tower. It's about $60,000, $70,000 per year in maintenance. The actual operators would be funded by the Federal Aviation Administration.
I understand you may want to wait for the final report to come out, but if you don't mind, can I ask you your opinion? Do you think a tower is necessary at the airport?
From an airport director position, not as a policymaker, anything that will enhance safety at the airport, I would support. I do think, based on the amount of activity at that airport, it has more activity than Boca Raton Airport, not the Palm Beach International Airport. It would warrant a air traffic control tower. We have already looked into it a little bit already and believe that it is justified. So we will be coming back to you with the recommendations and the findings in that report, and at that point, it will be your decision whether or not we pursue that. We would make an application to the Federal Contract Tower Program, and I think that you're notified whether you're a candidate in that within about 90 days. So that's certainly something that we would take a look at. And be aware that this Federal Contract Tower Program, it is a competition for the cost to construct it. We also are requesting that for the North County Airport, so we certainly would not want to sacrifice the contract tower at North County for one at Lantana, but we certainly could pursue funding for both.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Laura. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Laura, thanks for the presentation. Just a quick question on slide 24 regarding the upcoming requests for proposals. Do you have a time frame in regards to when those RFPs would be let out?
So we're working on it. I hope before the end of this year. It's frankly just been a staffing issue for us. We have a lot of things going on, and we've had a lot of kind of surprise issues that have come up as we've worked through different projects. So you're dealing with the issue of the day. I mean, that's really more our issue right now is just staff time.
Okay.
But the goal is to have it out before the end of this year. And I apologize for the number of lobbyists coming to your offices. I'm sure it's been a little overwhelming.
That's the reason why, because we've met with a lot of people. Thank you.
We expect a lot of proposals.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, just a couple of questions myself, and then I'll be Vice Mayor Saxon, Commissioner Marino. In going back to Lantana, and it's actually not just Lantana, it's all four of your airports that you're going to be issuing an RFP soon in regards to monitoring both
Yes.
tracks and that sort of thing, and noise and that. There's been questions in the community about the RFP. Can you explain how you're devising your RFP and how you'll be moving it forward and the sort of the features you're looking to include?
Sure. So we have certain minimum specifications that it must do. And then we're also asking for all of the providers to give us every single option that is available. We're not speccing it so tight that we have non-responsive proposals, but we are making sure that we're given the opportunity to consider every single available option. We're asking for a public-facing dashboard. We're asking for the community to be able to monitor their own operations. We currently have that through the WebTrack system. Unfortunately, the system that we have based on our current system, we have an older internal server system, limits our ability to make improvements to that WebTrack system. So we're looking for every single available option. We're looking at every single operator. We're not intending to limit the ability of operators to propose. We're adding options for additional noise monitors at Palm Beach and the Lantana Airport. We're also looking for portable noise monitors, which we've never had before. So we're looking essentially for every single available option, and then we'll evaluate it based on the ultimate pricing that comes out.
And in terms of being able to provide transparency and including the community in these discussions, can you comment on that?
So we have shared this with the community at the last Part 150 meeting, a copy of the RFP. We've taken comments. We've said that we're going to consider every single comment, and we are. We're going back and retooling it. We have taken it once to the Citizens Committee on Airport Noise for Palm Beach because they were actually the first group that requested the system. I believe we're bringing it back to them again this week for next Thursday, based on additional questions. These are public meetings. Everybody's invited to come. We'll take their comments, and then we will take all of the comments from the community members and then finalize the RFP document. Then there will be a selection committee that is put together to make the ultimate recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for award. We will be asking for a member of the Citizens Committee of Airport Noise to be on that committee as well, which we typically do with our Aviation and Airports Advisory Board for other types of solicitations.
Okay, thank you. All right, Commissioner, Vice Mayor, and then Commissioner Marino.
Thank you, Mayor. Boy, this is something that's very interesting for all of us. We all love our PBI. I have a comment on what Commissioner Baxter was talking about, and that is use of the parts of the runway in Pahokee that may not be 100% used 7 days a week, 24 hours. And the reason I bring this up is that this is actually done at a lot of airports in the country where portions of their runways that are not being used will be leased out to autocross clubs, junior clubs, events, car racing, auto clubs, for use for their performances and their exercises during a period of time when obviously the airport's not being used. I would like, and I know I was going to ask maybe to second it to have the board look at it, but perhaps we could have public comment from Pahokee as to whether they would be interested in having parts of their runway at the airport of Pahokee used for these purposes because of the great interest in junior autocross. I know I participated, and this was in Los Angeles actually, where they would use portions of the aircraft. So I'm going to leave it up to you all, but I think it's an excellent idea, and maybe when you go for the public comment, we could see if the folks there in the area would be interested in us continuing this conversation. If so, and I'm sure that Commissioner Baxter would like to do that also in her district, if the folks are interested in that area, then you can bring it back to the board and we could possibly examine it a little more after your office has reviewed it in conjunction with the uses at Pahokee. But I think it's an excellent idea, and I think it could be some way that we could bring in revenue and also interest the people in the use of county land for public use. So something to think about. Thank you so much for bringing it up. Thank you, Commissioner.
So if this is something the commission's interested in, I'd suggest maybe we put it on another workshop just to go through the pros and cons of doing something like this. And we can also reach out to the FAA to find out, what the hurdles would be from that perspective, because we cannot do that without their approval. Again, from my perspective, it's not something that I would recommend, but if it's something that the board wants us to do, we certainly can, take a look at it.
I know for a fact that years ago, not that many years ago, the FAA will go along with it as long as certain safety regulations are.
There is a process to go through.
And if anyone needs any help with that, see, we got to open up our eyes to being able to use public areas for public uses that may not, and revenue stream that may not necessarily be used right now for airline use. So, Ms. Phoebe, I think that's probably the first step. It's with the FAA and from your office, and then maybe to get public comment from the folks at Pahokee if they're interested. But it is an idea that other cities are using, and why not us? It's time for us to see what we can do to expand the uses of public spaces for public uses. thank you for looking into that. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Baxter and then Commissioner Marino.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to ask, before, I love the idea of Commissioner Sachs's, and if you would rather prefer to see if it's even possible for us to get an FAA approval and maybe start that process, and if it's possible and we can get it, then I would love to do a workshop or have them come and we can have people come speak to the need for it. So absolutely.
So certainly can reach out to the FAA and so the thought process is every other Saturday night, or?
I think they would be really happy with anything. There's nothing right now. So that would be amazing.
I don't want to give anybody the impression that this is easy or a low hurdle, but we certainly can reach out to them.
Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you. Excuse me. When you said that the tower was the obligation of the county, did you mean our ad valorem tax dollars, or as an enterprise fund,
No.
the airport funds that?
We never use ad valorem tax dollars. I don't think we've ever received a dime from the general fund. If you'd like to offer it, we'd love to take it, but I don't think so.
No, it's just the way
But
it came out.
Yeah, it would be through a grant funding program. There may be some matching costs associated with that, but it would be airport revenues that were matched or passenger facility fees.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that. Also, you said there is going to be an RFP, a master plan to be determined for North County and Lantana also. In that master plan, does that include some of the out parcels that we own?
So yes, the master plan will identify on the airport layout plan that, what the uses are for all of the facilities on the airport. We do have about 200 acres, which about half of that is actually developable, that's available for commercial type development or industrial. That's been reserved for a very long time. It's not an easy parcel to develop because it does have some low-grade wetlands and a lot of trees. But it is a parcel that is available for other commercial development in addition to aeronautical development.
And I know that we have, there's a constant discussion about a fire station up in that neck of the woods. And is there a parcel there for a fire station? Or is that something that would be part of the master
So
plan?
if the county would like to build a fire station somewhere on airport property, obviously we would love that, but you would have to fund that from ad valorem taxes because it's not a Part 139 airport. It's not required for airport purposes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other lights lit. I want to thank you all very much
Thank you.
for being here, and thank you for the update. All right, moving on. Next item is the South County Administrative Complex redevelopment by our facilities development operations. Okay.
That's why we have a vice mayor. We have a quorum, so why don't we go ahead with the presentation?
Perfect.
Thank you, Ismi.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Ismi Ajala, Director of Facilities Development and Operations. With me today is Eric McClellan, Director of FDO Strategic Planning Division. We're here today to provide you an update on the status of the South County Administrative Complex redevelopment project. Our intent is to present you with the results of the programming effort, the master planning options to accomplish site redevelopment, and obtain board direction on the conceptual master plan redevelopment option to be developed and subsequently implemented. As you know, this is a project that has been in the works for many years. Eric is the only current FDO team member that has been engaged in all past presentations regarding this project. Therefore, no one better than him to provide you an overview of the historical development, preparatory studies completed, and programming efforts to date.
Thank you, Ismene. Good morning, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and Madam Administrator. Rather than detailing the site, the existing improvements and operations as they exist today, I think we'll all appreciate beginning from where we left off at the last workshop, which takes us back to April 26th of last year. At that time, we presented a set of guiding policies that would be important considerations in developing any plan for site redevelopment. We ultimately received direction to use infrastructure surtax dollars assigned to upkeep the complex, to retain consultant services, to accomplish a master plan that identifies the minimum future government footprint to sustain operations, and in turn, maximize the land area available for delivery of workforce housing and other private improvements. Since guiding policies are critical to the approach and result for any facility design and have played a role in preparing the products that you'll see today, they do demand another look. And this slide presents those policies, consisting of primarily government interests in green at the top, primarily private interests in blue at the bottom, and overlapping or mutual interests in the middle. The numbers are not rankings, but are for organization and reference only. Likewise, these policies are not always exclusive, but are a continuum and likely differ only in the magnitude of interest to any given party. Naturally, we identify the government interests as the highest priority, given government ownership and control in this transaction, the limited supply of property in the service area, the prime location for public service delivery, and expectation for government service predictability at all times. The government interests in green include continuity of operations for uninterrupted service delivery to the public, retention of the communication tower on site for reasons that I'll go through momentarily, and no impact on public operations or services that would affect scheduling, cost, safety, comfort, or other material business condition. The private interests in blue are taken from stakeholder input. These include uses and design supportive of transit-oriented development, or TOD, interconnectivity between and amongst all on-site and adjacent uses to facilitate ease of access, surplus property to accommodate new business, and curb appeal from Congress Avenue. Converging in the middle is delivery of workforce housing to satisfy local demand, as well as opportunity for private sector investment. Taking that high-level guidance a step farther, there are 4 key items that we have identified that are or will become driving factors for the site's master plan and implementation, and that should be kept in mind. For one, the tax collector's stated intent to relocate off-site creates the most logical placement on-site and construction commencement timeframe for government facilities, so that no continuous government operation is materially impacted. Additionally, willingness to fully fund all project costs will be essential towards the viability of any master plan, conforming to the directive to maximize uncommitted land and achieve TOD form. A long-range planning horizon must be kept in mind so that decisions are forward-thinking and reduce potential future risks and consequences for public service delivery. And last but not least, siting decisions must be established for all government programming so that a comprehensive result is realized and leaves the fate for any single service or operation without an uncertain future. So with that, now we'll get into the substance and deliverables. In August of last year, we received the Technical Tower Analytical Report addressing potential scenarios for the needed replacement of the existing communication tower on the site. Then on December 6th, our solicitation for professional architectural and engineering services toward the master plan concluded with the board awarding a contract to Ziskovich LLC. And with us today in the audience representing Ziskovich, should there be any need, and those who we've worked most closely with to date, we have Saria Yafar, Principal and Director of Design, as well as Grace Perdomo, Director of Transportation and Mobility Planning. Ziskovich is a well-known firm in the region that has been providing services for over 45 years. The representative projects include the Brightline stations in the cities of Boca Raton and West Palm Beach, as well as the Joint Government Center for the City of Fort Lauderdale and Broward County. The tower study was performed by Omnicom Consulting Group to evaluate communications performance resulting from 4 hypothetical situations. 1, complete elimination of the tower. 2, replacement of a comparable tower on a nearby property. 3, replacement with multiple towers of lesser height. And 4, retention on site, including the possibility of construction atop a future building. To address the most significant findings, first, the tower was confirmed to be a critical component of the system, and its outright elimination from the service area would create a loss of local communication capability. Replacement at the complex was found to maintain and perhaps even improve the coverage area and eliminate costs of migrating to a new site. Although the complex was confirmed to be the optimal placement option, relocation to sites up to 1.5 miles away is technically possible without significant adjustments and could yield greater coverage with a tower of greater height than currently exists. However, the complex is the only county-owned and controlled holding in this service area, and sites beyond 1.5 mile were found to have a significant and material impact that would require significant changes. Benefits could also result from 2 towers of a lesser height being placed at a distance from one another within the service area, but that is likely the most costly and longest lead time approach due to the duplication of necessary property rights, infrastructure, maintenance, and operation. As for constructing atop a proposed building at the complex, Omnicom had no experience with this approach, included that significant engineering structural study would be required to validate integrity and code compliance. Ziskovich has also advised us of the same. Given the structural considerations, the cost of implementing this approach is believed to be far greater than traditional construction, and it also comes with the risk that would be associated with any structural failure. Finally, it was determined that a new 325-foot tall tower located anywhere within 1.5 miles of the complex, and including the complex, would not be affected by any building up to 90 feet in height, and that exceeds the 85-foot building height limit of city regulations that do apply to the subject site. In fact, the closer a building is to the tower, the taller a building can be without creating interference, as compared to buildings located at a greater distance from the tower. So while there are options, there are a combination of cost, time, and viability considerations to weigh, since no relocation site is under county control. Their availability and regulatory allowance for a communication tower was therefore not addressed by the study. For these reasons, and since the complex is a tried and true option, that does remain staff's and Omnicom's recommendation. We would also have no objection to further study the recommended approach of integrating a tower with a proposed building at the complex to potentially spare the effect on ground area if that is board direction. So moving away now from tower talk, a market study was commissioned and completed by Lambert Advisory. The study found existing demand for approximately 700 multifamily units, 40 to 80,000 square foot of office, 20 to 40,000 square feet of retail, and up to 125 hotel rooms that could be satisfied by the complex. And this demand is projected to continue for upward of 7 years. These findings validate the overall approach to the master plan and will also help inform our approaching competitive effort to find a redevelopment partner to finalize the master plan. Turning now to programming and needs analysis, this slide identifies the county entities, constitutional officers, and government partners that participated and are being accounted for. In addition to those with an existing presence at the complex, it was discovered that the property appraiser, county fleet management, and county radio operations have emerging and future needs for full accounting. The tax collector is not included since that office is planning for its own off-site facility. This slide details the results of surveys, interviews, and standard space planning practices. The results are largely consistent with our expectations and do closely align with projections used in our past workshops, but are more refined. Most significant is the need for approximately 223,000 net square feet of building space in year 2050, which is a time horizon that today is typical for master planning. And last for me, this slide portrays the distribution of square footage by government entity. In sum, the Florida Department of Health is the largest existing and projected operation, demanding a 34% share of total square footage. BCC departments account for approximately 30%, PBSO 11%, the property appraiser 5%, supervisor of elections 3%, and 9% for common or shared spaces such as lobby and conference rooms. This does not account for building circulation and system support spaces that will ultimately factor into gross building square footage, or the exterior spaces that are demanded by PalmTran, SFRTA, parking, and typical ancillary site improvements. So with all that as background, we're now going to transition to Isami for the main course.
Thank you, Eric. With the benefit of the historical and programming overview provided, allow me to explain the three conceptual master planning options prepared by our consultant. As we review these options, please keep in mind that the main differences amongst them are, number one, the total acreage to be committed to redevelopment by a private development partner. Number two, the extent of government programming to be kept on site. And number three, the collocation or not of general government and Department of Health operations. Our first option provides for the county to retain approximately 14 acres for government uses and dispose, be it through fee simple conveyance or ground lease, about 10 acres for private development. Under this option, all governmental uses remain on site. On this slide and the ones that follow, north is to the left of the screen. Therefore, as you can see, public uses are located on the south and southeast portions of the complex. The north and northeast portions of the complex, which front Congress Avenue, are allocated for private development. The Department of Health and general government uses are intentionally located in separate office towers, a 2-story facility for the Department of Health and a 4-story facility for general government. Shop operations for parks and recreation, as well as facilities development and operations, are located in a 1-story facility with connectivity to an adjacent parking structure, exterior circulation route, and exterior yard. The parking structure will provide approximately 1,600 parking spaces distributed on 5 levels. PBSO and County Fleet Management Services are each provided accommodations for an 8-bay operation with internal connectivity to the parking structure. The fueling facility is situated with proximity and access to all shop and fleet operations. This slide shows the circulation pattern under option number 1. Note the 3 distinct points of access, allowing for separate and independent paths to access specific services and navigate the site, minimizing interruptions. The massing diagram included on this slide helps to better visualize all uses, with public uses to the right and private uses to the left of the screen. PalmTran transit operations in the center link the two. For the reasons Eric shared, all these options retain the communication tower on site. The second option for redevelopment that we have also labeled as 2A provides for the county to retain approximately 14.9 acres for governmental uses and dispose, be it through fee simple conveyance as explained before or ground lease, about 9.7 acres. All governmental uses remain on site and are split between the south and north portions of the complex, with private development taking place in the center and southwest portions, each with Congress Avenue frontage. Department of Health and general government uses in this concept are collocated in a single office tower, 2 stories assigned to the Department of Health, 4 stories assigned to general government. Parking accommodations are split into 2 parking structures of approximately 460 and 1,200 spaces, respectively. The 420 space 3-level parking structure supports the 1-story facility at Great House housing, county and PBSO fleet management services, shop operations, and the fueling facility. The 1,200-space parking structure with 7 levels supports the collocated General Government Department of Health office tower and the Tri-Rail parking. This slide shows the circulation pattern under option number 2, which is similar to option number 1. We have 3 distinct point of access, but under this option, there is more overlap of circulation path associated with the different uses. The massing diagram included on this slide once again helps us better visualize how the uses come together. Note that under this option, county and PBSO fleet management services front Congress Avenue to the north or left of the screen. Palm Trend operations are tucked behind the government tower and proximate to the Tri-Rail station at the southeast corner of the site. The third and final option for redevelopment, labeled 2B, provides for the county to retain approximately 10 acres for governmental uses and dispose, be it through fee simple conveyance or ground lease, of approximately 14.5 acres. The main difference between this option and the one previously discussed is that it requires placement of the shop operations, county and PBSO fleet management services, and the fueling facility, which are best collocated to fulfill operation demands and achieve efficiencies at an off-site location yet to be determined. Department of Health and General Government uses are again collocated in a single office tower, 2 stories assigned to Department of Health, 4 stories assigned to General Government. Parking operations are provided by means of a 7-level parking structure with approximately 1,200 spaces. The next slide shows the circulation pattern under the third option, which replicates that we had shown you before, but for the absence of shop, fleet, and fuel operations on the northernmost area of the complex. Like the previous 2 options, the massing diagram included on this slide once again helps better visualize how the uses come together. The main difference again being that shop, fleet, and fuel operations are removed from the complex. In summary, all options provided meet the guiding policies presented again today and demonstrate the result of direction to minimize the government footprint. The potential acreage that could be committed to private redevelopment ranges from approximately 9.7 acres to 14.5 acres, depending on the extent of government programming accommodated on site. For context, when we started this process in late 2019, it was estimated that a maximum of 5 acres could be disposed. Effectively, this renewed approach to project development has led to at least doubling the total acreage that could be eventually committed to private redevelopment. In preparation for this workshop, staff met with key stakeholders to provide them a brief overview of the programming and conceptual master plan redevelopment efforts. The meeting between staff and Department of Health representatives was centered on discussing the advantages and disadvantages of having Department of Health and General Government operations located in the same building or delivered in separate buildings. Department of Health representatives expressed preference for the standalone building option in consideration of the services the department offers, which include management of communicable diseases, accessibility, and population served. The tax collector confirmed that it will relocate its office out of the complex onto a non-county site. It reported that it was actively negotiating to acquire the property where it will site its future facility and expected to obtain ownership of the same later this calendar year. As the potential date for moving out of the complex, the tax collector expected it will take 2 years to relocate after it acquires the site where it will build the new facility. However, in recent weeks and after we had submitted the workshop item, the tax collector informed us that the seller suddenly and unexpectedly became unwilling to part with the targeted property. As a result, other real estate options are now actively being pursued. Therefore, while timing of the relocation is somewhat uncertain at this point in time, the intent and ultimate result remains unchanged. The meeting with SFRTA representatives was centered on future parking availability for commuters and overall site circulation accessibility. Upon initial review, they did not identify any fatal flaws with the 3 options provided. However, they requested to further review county staff workshop item in order to provide feedback prior to the board workshop meeting. And we did not receive any additional follow-up after we share our item with them. In addressing county staff's questions as to a potential funding contribution, SFRTA representatives indicated that grant opportunities could be explored by the agency. We also met with a representative from the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council who commended the work done by county staff and its consultant in developing the site towards a transit-oriented development and recommended micromobility options be incorporated into the design. A preference to locate shop and fleet operations elsewhere was conveyed. We shared that, although at a theoretical level we could agree, practical considerations based on efficiencies from collocation and lack of alternate county-owned property in the area supported staff's recommendation to keep both uses on site. Lastly, we met with representatives from the city of Delray Beach who, upon initial review, did not identify any fatal flaws to the 3 proposed options. City representatives were particularly interested in ensuring pedestrian connectivity and mobility toward attaining a human rather than a vehicular environment. Frontage to Congress Avenue was a point of attention as well. We inquired as to the possibility of requesting a modification to the parking requirements in order to avoid overbuilding parking supply. City representatives indicated that such a request could be considered by the city as long as the same was fully justified and supported. Importantly, to complete the redevelopment approach to the complex, form of development to minimize the government footprint and present market conditions do come with cost implications. The estimated hard construction cost for each of the 3 options is shown on this slide and ranges from approximately $132 million to $164 million. Staff notes that this estimated costs include all on-site redevelopment costs, including escalation and contingency space for any unknown future need, as well as those associated with the Department of Health and SFRTA facilities. Past practice, as it relates to funding Department of Health facilities, has been for the county to carry the burden of capital costs while Department of Health provides operational funds. No similar practice exists for SFRTA facilities, although no rent has been charged for their occupation of county-owned real estate. Bear in mind that soft costs must also be accounted for in delivering new capital improvements. This includes design, permitting, staff costs, owner contingency, and furnishings, for example. This slide presents estimates for these additional costs, assuming a maximum hard construction cost of $164 million. Therefore, all soft and hard costs considered, the higher end of the project implementation cost is approximately $55 million. The funding approach for this project was discussed on February 28, 2023, during a board workshop meeting when staff presented an overview of the county's capital budget and proposed bond projections. At the time, the board endorsed the eventual issuance of an $80 million non-ad valorem capital improvement program bond to fund the redevelopment of the complex. Bond proceeds, along with proceeds from the disposition of a portion of the site for private redevelopment, can be used toward the cost of complex redevelopment. In evaluating the total development costs and funding approach, staff recommends this board to consider if it will, consistent with prior practice, carry the development costs for the Department of Health facility, and if it will engage FFRTA to explore joint funding options toward development, and or potential contributions for operations. As it relates to construction of the improvements, a formal phasing plan will be developed upon selection by this board of the conceptual master plan option to be implemented. All 3 options presented can allow for construction to proceed without impacting existing operations, which achieves the continuity of operation guiding policy in preparing a redevelopment master plan. However, all three options require that the tax collector office relocates in order for construction to commence. As previously stated, the tax collector expects to relocate 2 years after acquisition of a replacement site. Given existing construction industry market conditions, regulatory proceedings, and other considerations, staff estimates that said time could extend about 2.5 years. Therefore, once the master plan option is selected by the board, staff can proceed with design permitting and issuance of a request for proposals to select a private redevelopment partner and issuance of an RFP to select a construction manager at risk to build the public improvements. The time staff will require to complete said steps will most probably align with the time the tax collector will require to relocate its operations. However, if tax collector is delayed in relocating off the complex, construction of the new public facilities on the complex will become delayed as well. Staff is recommending that it be authorized to proceed with implementation of Master Plan Option Number 1, as it believes that said option strikes the best balance between private opportunity and public operations and services into the future, with neither one being too constrained, while providing some additional future room for growth for public operations if needed. Under Option Number 1, all government uses are on-site, providing for operational efficiencies and certainty, while leaving remaining county-owned real estate holdings in the South County area available to support other community needs. Furthermore, the provision of separate office towers for Department of Health and General Government is in better alignment with operational needs, practices, and preferences, as it provides higher resiliency during emergency scenarios such as pandemic events and when dealing with communicable disease-related services, and allows for easy repurposing if one or the other were not needed in the future. In contrast, collocated Department of Health and General Government uses, as will result under options 2 and 3, will require design and engineering controls to ensure that no cross-contaminations to occur, and separate entrances will likely be required to ensure services are not mutually disruptive. Option number 1 also provides the benefit of a clear demarcation between public and private uses, which provides for more streamlined regulatory proceedings, leading to a portion of the complex being dedicated for private redevelopment. Similarly, it allows clear demarcation of necessary site infrastructure, thereby minimizing the potential for future liabilities and conflicts regarding maintenance responsibility and operational costs into the future. Finally, under option number 1, private development is allocated a proportionate share of the site frontage on Congress Avenue, giving residential and commercial uses an advantageous placement conducive to economic development and in alignment with the city's view for redevelopment of the Congress Avenue corridor. At the same time, public uses also retain visibility from Congress Avenue to ensure adequate presence and ease of identification for the general public to support public service availability and delivery. Again, regardless of the master plan option selected by the board, staff requires confirmations to the board's intent to continue with past practice and fund construction of the facility for Department of Health. Similarly, staff requires board direction as to if it is to initiate or not negotiations with SFRTA to secure a financial contribution towards its share of capital improvements and or operational costs. It remains staff's intent to issue an RFP to select a private development partner that will complete the master plan. This concludes staff's presentation. We will gladly take any questions as you deem appropriate.
Thank you, Commissioner Bernard, and then Commissioner Marino.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Eric, I think we've been. I think I'm almost in year 7, so we've been through a lot of these discussions. My question is in regards to the tower. In regards to option 1, where would the tower end up?
It will remain on the complex, okay? The visuals that you have available right now are conceptual, so pinpoint location has not been determined, but it will be within the complex.
Okay, thank you. Based on this presentation, I would choose option 1 as my choice, and And of course, we'd have to go through the funding approach in regards to the NAV bond and also the property disposition. However, in regards to DOH, I would ask that we seek the funds from Tallahassee or other sources, because I don't think that we're not required to pay for the construction of DOH's building. So I would hope that we seek other funds and it's not just a burden on the taxpayers. And also, I would also work with the SFRTA to seek their share of the funds in construction. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll go to Commissioner Marino, then Commissioner Woodward, and then Vice Mayor Sachs.
Thank you. Excuse me. I too think option 1 is the best option. My concern with option 3 is that it doesn't sound like there's been a location identified for the fleet and fuel, and that worries me, especially since we've done an inventory of our lands, and we shouldn't have to go out and buy another piece of land to put this when we have the land available. So that I would go with option 1. I agree with Commissioner Bernard, and my question actually here is, with DOH, other buildings around the state, who paid for them? I don't see why we should be paying. If there are dollars available, those dollars should come to DOH here. I don't think we should be paying for it. And third, given that if we choose option 1, it's 10.4 acres that we keep. It's roughly, 14 acres that we would dispose of? Or opposite? Oh, I'm sorry, 10 acres that we would dispose of, 14 that we would keep. Do we have a preliminary estimate of value, of appraised value on that?
We have an internal estimate from staff. We have not commissioned an appraisal. We figure it might be somewhere between $1.5 and $2 million per acre.
Per acre, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And SFRTA, would be great if they gave us some money, but being passport chair and Marcy being there now, they're always scraping for dollars, so it might be an issue, but maybe there's something we can do in trade. I don't know, but I would love to see SFRTA come up with some more money, but if we're looking at more train stations, I'm not sure they're going to want to do that. So, and I would put on the parcel where we would do the development, I would see putting affordable housing closest to Tri-Rail.
Understood. We did reach out, Commissioner, for your information. We reached out to the Department of Health and inquired what is the practice throughout the state as to funding capital improvements. They responded back saying that they don't get funds for capital improvements typically, that they receive from the state operational funds only. So sharing that information, we will certainly engage if that's board direction with them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I do like option 1. The one thing upon closer inspection of it, as far as like where the parking is located right now, is there a chance to move it a little closer to the train station? Because I know myself, when I do park, and if it's a really long walk, sometimes I miss the train in my shoes. Just that. As far as SFRTA is concerned, we did have a board meeting last week, and this came up as part of a bigger discussion with SFRTA wanting to move forward with meeting with different municipalities, because most of our train stations are in municipalities, for working on TODs. And Miami, she's kind of leading the charge on this. They've developed RTZs, rapid transit zones, that they have a few of them developed around train stations that are very successful. So the goal of that conversation, part of that is to, I think, go to Tallahassee and encourage them to remove TODs from Live Local, because that's kind of put the brakes on cities who are, afraid that anything that they allow to be built around a train station is going to give them that mile down the road that they have to allow it. So if we were able to get TODs exempted from Live Local, I think that this would kind of loosen up some of the cities' fight on this, although Delray's not fighting us on this, as I understand. So this, when I brought it up to the board at SFRTA, it was also mentioned, Tri-Rail does not have a lot of extra money, and they're very concerned about having to pay for parking. But there was a discussion of maybe some potential funding for multimodal uses, or, anything that helps with getting people out of their cars. I guess there's some funding from the state and maybe even federal dollars that they might get help with. And I don't know if TPA could be a part of that as well to try to help us get some funding. But if we're working towards developing this next to the train station and have the buses there, I think we could build some partnerships outside of DOH, which hopefully they can have some funding too, to work with this. And then even, the private development that's going to come from this, I do believe we have some people here to speak on this, that it's come up that there's an appetite for building workforce housing, and even, I'm going to steal your phrase, workforce retail, to provide more affordable places for some of the businesses that have kind of been squeezed off of Atlantic Avenue, and working towards developing Congress as kind of a new place of, it's ripe for development. And there's plenty of people in this area that can work for, look for some more affordable housing and also more affordable retail and workspace. So this is fantastic. I love option one. Just mentioning the thing about the parking, I know myself, I have missed a couple of trains just because I have to park too far away. So if we could identify that. And I told the SFRTA board after this workshop that, I'm going to encourage them to watch it, but also get back with them on working in this way. And I know that Miami has a few successful areas that they've managed to do this around train stations. And if we can copy some of that and maybe get some of the funding that they were able to get as well, it could help with this project. Oh, one last question. As far as the 3 commission offices, I had asked you about, were they going to be relocated to the same place, or were you looking at leasing elsewhere?
During the last time we came to this board, we actually received direction to try to explore possibilities for removing county commissioners' offices from the complex. At the time, we engaged with the cities with trying to see if they had any space available to lease. The answer at that time was no. So we do have a placeholder for about 5,000 square feet of space within this facility. However, if the board direction is to continue to identify other potential locations, we will continue to do so until we find an alternative that is feasible.
Okay, so option one does have, now it has space for the
We do
offices.
have a
Okay.
placeholder in all options because we have not identified another place where to locate those offices. However, we can certainly continue to search, and the design has not been obviously completed.
No?
Okay, Vice Mayor?
I got to say, now that we're going to do all this development there, I kind of think maybe my office should stay there. I like it even more. I use that South County office, and I have an aide there. And of course, it's my district, so it's a little bit easier for me. And it's been wonderful. But it is a bad building. It's really an old building. This has been a journey for all of you. And I think it has turned out really, really perfect. I love option one. This is my song I like to sing, which is multifamily rental market, retail, commercial, housing, multifamily units, transportation, and a county commission office. I mean, I love it. Maybe I'll have a Chick-fil-A there and Starbucks, who knows. I'll be there more often, Baker. But I think that we need to be, and you have been very careful. Tax collector's office, funded by the state. I'd like to keep her there because now she's looking to my district for an office. But I think that to have offices close to transportation so the public can get to easily and inexpensively is a smart thing to do for government, rather than have them drive far away to get a driver's license or any other kind of permits. So I would be in favor of at least having a small office for a tax collector there by the station. Secondly, the Department of Health, again, I know it is a state-funded agency, but we need to have these government services close to public transportation, period. And whatever we can do to work on that, and I know y'all have been working very hard. I appreciate it. So I'm for option one. I like these public-private partnerships. I think that it has worked out very well. And I'm just, that whole Congress corridor is just going to get a big boost from this. And I think it's an excellent idea, and I can't wait to get started. Whatever we can do to help. I'm there just about maybe twice a week in that building. And it needs, it's ready. The county is ready. Transportation is ready. Private industry is ready. So let's get the train going on. All right? Thank you so much. Thank you for your work.
All right. So, let's see, couple things. Option one's fine. Would the Live Local Act apply to the portion to be redeveloped privately?
It certainly could, Mayor. However, I would argue that the allowances under the city's code for this site are already quite generous and are likely to be all the allowance that a private developer would need. Again, that's my opinion.
Want it be faster?
That's debatable. I don't have enough experience with implementing the Live Local Act.
Okay.
But I think the city, as we heard earlier, is accepting this. They're excited about this. They want to see this come to fruition. I think they'd be a very good partner in seeing this.
Which would give us more density.
What would give us more density? I think Live Local, as I understand it, is essentially endless density, but in this,
it's not.
No,
You get
I'm not all that familiar with it.
maximum of whatever the jurisdictions
In
allow.
this case, you have a floor area ratio of 2.5, which is basically covering the entire site 2.5 times with building footprint, and you can go up to 85 feet in height. So we're talking.
I think, okay, that's all right. So I think going forward, it would be good to understand, whether Live Local applied, what would provide for the most housing. And so as we move through the process, that'd be good to understand.
We'll get that information to you.
As it relates to the health department, I agree with my colleagues. The state needs to be funding this. It's 35, almost it's over a third the cost of this site, of the development. So the state's been able to help us fund other things, and this is one of their departments, and I think they should be able to find the money. My question also regarding the health department, of the parking places, the 1,200 parking places, how many of those are allocated or determined to be what the health department would require? How much of that portion could be allocated to them?
Let me go back to my notes because the number is escaping me. So our parking structure, about a fourth will be the easy answer. So our parking structure is estimated to cost about $44 million. Out of that overall cost, about $11 million it's the proportionate share by Department of Health. So about a fourth.
So maybe them contributing to that as well, since that's, we wouldn't have to build that except for them.
Depending on the direction we get from this board, and I'm hearing so far that we're going to be authorized to engage with them and pursue funding opportunities, yes, our recommendation will be that their contribution be applied to both the building, which is estimated to cost about $40 million, and then about $11 million for the share of the parking facilities.
That would be great. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized. Administrator Baker, do you need to be recognized now?
We're working with the health department now, or having discussions, I should say, because they've got a significant roof problem at one of their facilities, and we're going back and forth, and that is something that we may also need to go to the legislature to request a special allocation for their roof, because they were looking for us to fund it. And I said, we need to discuss this a little further. So I think they really, is my understanding, they don't plan for capital. And so therefore, we may need to go for request a special allocation.
Do they plan for O&M?
They do provide for operating.
But not
and
maintenance.
Renewal and replacement, and that's been a challenge.
Okay. All right, good to understand. Okay, Commissioner Baxter. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple questions. I support my fellow commissioners first with option one. I think that's what they like. It's amazing. And also, I would like to ask to date, how much has the county budgeted for this remodel?
We do not have a remodel as part of the budget. This project is part of the IST project plan for implementation. And when it was first envisioned, it was envisioned as a renovation, not as a full redevelopment. This is actually our fifth time in front of this board with this topic. Last year, in April of 2022, when we came forward with a plan, we received direction from the board that we were to pursue redevelopment. And at that time, we requested and were granted authorization to use a portion of the $6 million that are in place for renovation to fund the design process that brought us here today.
And how much was it projected to cost for the redevelopment?
As stated, overall costs of and construction about $200 million.
So and then it was originally going to be a renovation, you're saying?
It was.
And how much was that?
It was budgeted with $6 million.
And did we budget or have put away $6 million to go towards this project?
Will you mind repeating the question, sorry?
Have we put away the $6 million to go towards this
Minus the amounts that have been used to keep the building ongoing, the vast majority of that funding is still available, yes.
So then the answer would have been 6 million to date has been put away towards the 200 million.
6 million minus what we spent on design services and then some minor renovation work that needed to be done to keep the building going until the redevelopment takes place.
So 7 years ago when this was started, it was never going to be what it is today?
It was a different approach back in 2019, okay? It was meant to be a renovation. At the time, the board felt that renovation will suffice the needs of the area. Through 19, 20, 21, and 22, 4 different iterations, the direction received from the board was we would like to minimize the governmental presence on the complex. We would like to dispose of a portion of that complex for workforce housing, and therefore we have proceeded accordingly. That complex is spread. You have a multiplicity of 1- and 2-story buildings throughout, rather than being condensed on a portion of the site.
So at least several years we've known.
Several years working on this project, certainly. Certainly.
It's just a huge hit all at once, and I, maybe my personal feeling, I would have liked to have seen more budgeted or saved up to this point to go towards this overall project. But again, I do support it. I would like to also, the mayor actually brought up a great point. I would like to see if there are, because written in Live Local are a lot of even tax benefits or things that you get back as an incentive for building workforce housing. So I would just like us to optimize those to the best of our ability.
Understood.
Administrator Baker, you're recognized.
Just a little history. Actually, when we first started talking about this project in the board, considering implementing an infrastructure sales tax, there was really $39 million allocated to renovate this facility. And then it came back to the board, and the district commissioner at the time, one of them, because that's more than one for there, actually said, no, we don't need to do all of that. So it was reduced from the $39 million that was originally looked at down to $6 million. And so that's how we got to the $6 million. Just do the, you don't need to do all the changes, just do a bare minimum. And so we've kept that $6 million because when we went to the voters for the infrastructure sales tax, we outlined the projects that would be in there. And at the time, this particular project went in at $6 million, but staff started out with $39 million doing significant renovations to the property.
Thank you. All right, I don't see any other lights lit. We have 2 cards, 3 minutes apiece.
Thank you, Mayor. I have Neil Schiller and Stephen Michael.
Good morning. Good morning. This is on, I think so. Neil Schiller with Government Law Group, 137 Northwest First Avenue in Delray Beach, Florida. I think I've been to all 5 public hearings along with Eric and have continuously spoken in favor of the redevelopment of this parcel because it's so unique and Delray Beach is coming into its own right now. And if you've driven Congress Avenue, you'll know how in need how much TLC really this parcel needs and what opportunities for redevelopment there are. I'm here with my client, Mr. Michaels, representing the Andre LLC. To the left, that gray rectangle, a portion of it is this Andre Design District, which Steve will talk to you a little bit about, which has grown organically over the past few years to include almost, I think, 30 or 40 murals at this point. Anyway, we have an idea, and we've met with some of you, or meeting with your staff in a couple of weeks, to take that sort of sliver of orange and bring that to fruition faster, doing 200 plus workforce housing units, 100% workforce housing and or affordable housing, mixed use, et cetera. So we love option 1 because I think it does give the flexibility to go forward with a project like that, so proof of concept. But again, we look forward to working with your staff and meeting with your staff and hopefully if there's something that we can I'll get behind bringing this back to you. But we're really encouraged by option 1 and thank you so much for your time. Steve? Oh, I think the mayor may want to call you first.
Hi, thank you. Steve Michael, 1876 Dr. Andres Way. I do want to compliment staff and the consultants. Really a great job. I think it was very comprehensive. I also personally really like the option 1 concept. We're actually the hole in your rectangle. That's our property that I purchased about the time that you started these discussions. We have turned a very tired old industrial site, light industrial site. We repositioned it over the last 2 years into a destination retail office site that has a tremendous following of people. We've completely filled we've leased 100% of the spaces. We have waiting lists, but more importantly, we're proof of concept of destination retail in this location without Congress Avenue visibility. Congress Avenue visibility is great. Sorry, it's not my. But we really, I'm very passionate about this site. I think this site on Congress Avenue is the heart of the Congress Avenue complex, meaning the entire strip from Atlantic to Linton. And being a TOD and having the train station is a tremendous advantage to the live, work, play, mixed use development that could exist there. We spent the last year and a half doing our own. We have initiated our own architectural studies. We've done land planning studies. We've done economic studies, and we have formulated a couple concepts of doing on that. Coincidentally, on that same area where option 1 has residential, 200 to 400 units of workforce housing lined on the bottom with retail, and not on Congress Avenue, because we feel, and we've proven the fact that we can effectively, successfully lease retail space without having the visibility from Congress Avenue, because it becomes more pedestrian driven and it becomes a little bit more of a village. And we think doing so early would be a complement to the overall plan, because we would be it would be helpful and attractive to the future development, which we hope we will be a part of as part of the RFP, but it would be attractive to the future development or future RFP on the portion of the site of the that faces Congress Avenue that would be probably much more retail, commercial, and office use. So we would love to work with staff, work with consultants, and possibly find a solution that we can bring the workforce housing portion or a portion of it to market much quicker and not disrupt any of the existing services that the county has, and not disrupt the plan that that has been created by the consultants. And that's really what we're here asking, and we hope to be able to work with staff and work with the consultants to enhance what potentially could be here, and hopefully will be here, because I've been waiting for as long as you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Barnett, you recognize.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ismay, for your presentation. I just wanted to express my support also for option number one. I know we had a chance to talk about it by Zoom my first day back. I do like this project, and I do appreciate, Neil, the commitment to 100% workforce housing on the site, which was another concern of mine when I spoke with you during my meeting last week. With regards to funding for this project, there was discussion, I guess, on slide 31 about a NAVSIB bond in the amount of $80 million. The cost of this project has increased significantly to, what, $200 million? I think when you when we first talked about this, you said the disposition of this property would pay for most of it. Is that correct? Or a large part?
For a portion of it, not
Where would the rest
most.
of the money come from to pay for this
So,
project?
and that's part of the conversation and the direction we wanted to have today, right? So let me, if I may, take a step back. The $80 million that we had included as part of the February 2023 workshop was a placeholder and an estimate based on the best available information we had at the time, right? At the time, programming had not been completed. All the information that we're sharing with you today and the estimates from our consultants had not been provided. In thinking about this project, we foresee that a combination of funding sources may take place. Number one, if the board chooses, there is a possibility of issuing a bond. Number two, if the board chooses and elects to dispose a portion of the property, the proceeds from that disposition, be it a fee simple conveyance, will translate into a lump sum amount coming into the county's coffers, or a ground lease, which will be an annual payment recurring over time, could be applied towards the development costs. So those are the two main ones that will rely on the county. We have discussed today the possibility of asking SFRTA for contributions and asking the state for contributions as well. I should also point out that a significant cost allocation goes to the parking structure, and that's why we engaged with the city in talking about the possibility of having a parking study that right-sizes the size of that structure so that we're not overbuilding and therefore spending more money than needed in parking. So that will be the mix. It's not a single solution. It will be a mixture of.
Would any money for this project come from ad valorem?
Yes. If we issue non-ad valorem type bonds, NAB bonds, then we're going to have to pledge some other sources of revenue that come into the county, with the exception of ad valorem. So we won't use ad valorem there. If we fund some of it without issuing NAB bonds, then a portion of it may be ad valorem, but it may also be, we're going to go after grants that are available as well. So as Ismay stated, it will be a variety of revenue sources coming in. Those will be identified before we come back to you to actually start any work whatsoever. So in the meantime, we'll be working on it. And the $200 million does include the state's portion. And so, as I stated, we'll find out if we can get money from the state to help with that cost as well. So we'll continue to move forward and work on it. One thing I did want to highlight, we keep saying workforce, but we're going to need workforce affordable housing in this development. And we've had discussions with this board before, and I walked away thinking that we were all pretty much in agreement that any property the county surpluses and identifies, that 100% would be for workforce affordable housing, which would also help with leveraging our bond dollars as well. So that is what we're operating under, unless you tell me otherwise.
Thank you, Virginia. That's all I had, except that if this is the appropriate time and if a motion is required, I'd like to make a motion to direct staff. No? No motions?
No.
Workshop? Okay. Well, I think I'm on board with option one. I think we all are. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. The current Department of Health building, what is its condition, and what would it cost to renovate that building?
We have not done an assessment for renovation. The building is functional, it's operational. It's not a new building, right? I will argue it's in good overall condition. I don't have an estimate right now as to how much it will cost to renovate it.
Well, looking at the master plan and looking at the square footages that are being allotted for each department, the fact that $70,000 is for the Department of Health, that's a ton of square footage, and that's a ton of money that we, as a county, for an agency that is not ours, I do not see us paying for that. So option one is great, but it means 70,000 square feet for the Department of Health at our cost. And with the $200 million price tag, I'm having if there isn't funding for this, I don't want to go back to the drawing board, but 70,000 square feet, I mean, that is half the building. So I am hesitant to say, yes, let's charge through with option one until we get some more information about the Department of Health and who's going to be paying for it. Because if we're not getting any assistance for that 70,000 square feet, I would say I don't think that selling the land at $1.5 million per acre that the Department of Health is sitting on warrants the dollars we're going to have to invest later. I would rather just see it stay where it is. We downsize the size where we are in the northern, eastern, whatever that section is. We move the parking spaces closer to Tri-Rail. And we have all the space in the middle that we can then dispose of. So I don't want to put a wrench in the plans, but if we're not getting any support for this building from DOH, I don't think it should be our nickel. I don't think we should pass that cost on to our taxpayers. Thank you.
Understood.
All right, I don't see any other lights lit. Want to thank you very much for the presentation, the update, and all the good work you guys are doing.
Thank you.
And next we'll hear from ISS. No, this is mine. Mr. Satchel, you're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board, County Administrator.
Before you
Baker.
start, though, I have to say hopefully there's no technical difficulties with your department.
Just remember to lift that button when you speak. All right, thank you. Good morning. For the record, my name is Archie Satchel. I'm the Chief Information Officer for ISS. And with me at the table, I have Amit Sawant, our Application Services Director, Tina Travieso, our Chief Information Security Officer, our newly minted Platform Services Director, Sandra Samuel, our Network Services Director, Mike Butler, and my Financial Services Director, Amy Karp. So thank you today for giving us the opportunity to just give you a brief overview for on the ISS department. All right, next slide. So we are the Information Technology IT support department for the departments reporting to the Board of County Commissioners and to the independently elected constitutional officers. ISS is also provided to non-county agencies, government agencies like the healthcare district or education areas at the school district. We provide services in that area in terms of network connectivity, internet service, data center co-location, and hosting services. By providing internet access to county information services and systems, it has expanded the department's customer base to include business partners, taxpayers, citizens, and the public at large. This slide just represents a summary of the IT strategic plan from 21 to 24, and we'll be working on our 25 to 28 plan starting next year. And our strategic plan aligns with the vision, mission, and values of the county. So we closely align our strategic plan to the county's strategic plan as a support agency for the county. Take a break.
Okay, if you don't mind, can we take a 5-minute break?
Okay.
Apparently, I've had people sitting here too long, and I
Across the-
apologize.
Okay,
So if you don't
take a break.
mind, we'll just take a break, and we'll come right back to this. We need one more. While we're waiting, can you introduce, I understand we have a group of folks with you?
Well, I was going to do it in a couple slides later if you want, but I could do it now if you want to do it.
No, that's okay. If you got it in your slides, then we'll wait. Shows I did not read ahead. Trying to get.
So ISS Part 2.
Thank you.
So we'll now take a look at our organizational structure and our FY23 budget. The department is functionally organized into 5 divisions: application services, enterprise IT security, finance and administrative services, network services, and platform and infrastructure services. Also, we have non-divisional IT operations sections, which is our countywide GIS, IT compliance, quality assurance, and training. For FY23, we have a budget of $38.1 million for operating expenses and a $9.5 million in operating revenues for a net ad valorem impact of $28.7 million. IS is a diverse workforce consisting of 213 full-time positions, augmented by a complement of around 27 contractors. So ISS has a highly successful internship program. We source our interns from local colleges, primarily PBSC and FAU. However, we do get a few Gators, Knowles, and Rattlers in our midst. We currently have 12 interns on staff across the various IT disciplines, and over the years, we have converted 34 interns to full-time employees, including Tina here, and 24 of those conversions still remain on staff. Some are in the audience, I just saw them in the back. You guys can just stand up for a second. You see how diverse our workforce is. You got my young faces. And a lot of these are the ones that were converted and are still remaining with us. They haven't left us as yet. So I'll now turn the presentation over to Amit Sawan so he can speak about his division, application services.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm honored to share with you the essential contributions of our application services division in guiding the county's journey of digital transformation. The application services division stands as the linchpin connecting the county's innovation to tangible reality through cutting-edge software solutions. As we embark on this journey of exploration, please allow me to illuminate the multifaceted role that this division plays in shaping the technological landscape of the county. With a dedicated team of around 80 skilled programmers, our division undertakes the challenge of crafting, implementing, and maintaining a diverse spectrum of software applications. Through strategic integration of third-party software, we ensure a seamless functioning of our technological ecosystem. One of our hallmarks of our application services division is its commitment to maintaining existing applications, especially in this landscape of evolving rapid technological evolution. This function ensures the integrity of this, ensures the legacy applications remain relevant as well as appropriate. And lastly, the division extends its expertise beyond technology. Yes, technology is involved here, but it offers vital consulting and project management services as well. The next slide is our key business applications modules, where the nucleus behind our operational excellence revolves. The reach of these modules is vast, from managing complex cases to fostering an environment of seamless collaboration. These modules aren't just software pieces, they are just the backbone of our operational strategy. Let us take a glimpse of what lies beneath these encompassing umbrella. Primo's the case management module toolsets, then you have the employee information or the TED system, which actively channels the efforts of our greatest asset, that is the county workforce. You have the skillful contract management system, the financial management system as well, which safeguards fiscal integrity, and additionally the inventory and the maintenance manager application for our asset tracking. As we continue this journey of technological advancement, let us remember that these modules represent not just the present, but the future that we are creating. This significance cannot be overstated because these are the channels through which we drive change, efficiency, and progress. And yet, these modules merely scratch the surface. I think you have the wrong slide, but that's fine.
Go back to.
Okay. And yet these modules merely scratch the surface. It is important to recognize that within this umbrella there exists a vast ecosystem. I think it's the next slide. And yet these modules merely scratch the surface, like I said. It is important to recognize that within this umbrella, or the encompassing umbrella, there are approximately 320 purposeful applications which have been meticulously crafted from the unique demands of various county departments. I'll just name a few because you have 6 boxes. Basically, we have so many county departments, but because of the time we have at our disposal, I'm just going to skip some of them. But all of them are equally important. Like, for example, you have the community services application, which is also the department which is there, utilizes the STARS, the Oscars online, the resource, and the referral portal, which integrate the senior and the veteran data. They handle LAHEAP request and aid referral for responsive services. If you look at the environmental tracking application, resource management application, it is the Department for Finance as well as Ecology, plus you have the Sea Turtle application, which is also there, which oversees the NEST, which fosters the county's ecological commitment. And of course, you have the FDO, you have the engineering, all of them employ the work order system, the inventory manager system. All of them are asset tracking, inventory, and work order systems. The next slide which we have, I'm just going to name 2 of them, the first one and the last one, but like I said, all departments are equally important to us. The first one is PZB, which we're talking about, and it has the code enforcement module, the contractor certification module, planning, zoning, building, impact fee assessment. So under this umbrella, it is a massive system which we have built over the last 15 years. The property appraiser one is a constitutional office, as you see, and we have the well-known state-of-art property appraiser application, the PAPA website, which you all know, which we developed in-house as well. And of course, it has the homestead e-file and the tangible e-file as well. Water utilities, you have youth services, and of course, you have the IGMS application, the internal audit systems, the bus pass tracker, the Virgin Islands system, all of them within the digital, all these applications are within the digital landscape of Palm Beach County, basically underscoring the county's commitment to legal transparency, accountability, public transportation, and streamlined governance. The next slide is the key enterprise-wide applications where we are talking about, and most of you are already aware of some of these applications which you have. You have the HRIS application, which is there, a robust platform that orchestrates various HR functions seamlessly. The eKPI system is our window into the performance insights. The Advantage Financial is our county's financial management system, which is a comprehensive features, involves fiscal accountability and accuracy, allowing us to focus on our core mission while maintaining sound financial practices. And of course, you have the TED, that is the Training and Development Database. It facilitates career progression and learning opportunities, reflecting the county's dedication to nurturing the talents that drive our county forward. The last 2 slides I have is the one about our technology tool set. And this is very important because that is where the county is navigating right now too, at least from the application services point of view. So as we navigate the evolving landscape of technology, our division remains steadfast in our commitment to harnessing innovation for the betterment of our staff and community. Our toolbox is a testament of our dedication staying at the forefront of this technological advancement. We are utilizing machine learning, which is the backbone of artificial intelligence. It's transforming the way which we analyze data and make decisions. The introduction of chatbots has revolutionized our customer interactions, and we'll be employing them with Microsoft in the near future. Power BI is a dynamic reporting tool which transforms raw data into visually compelling insights. Artificial intelligence, as you know, is predictive analysis. UiPath is our robot process automation tool, which actually helps us automate repetitive tasks for our county staff. SimplyGov is one of the tools which we have embraced in the last 6 months, and it cuts down our programming time by almost 60%. And of course, the IVR. And of course, I have the last slide for our database application services database section. The next slide shares basically it shares the insights of the achievements of our database administration team. With 796 SQL Server databases and 119 Oracle databases, we manage a staggering 27 terabytes of data in SQL database and 77, so that's almost 110 terabytes of data in our databases, both SQL and Oracle. But again, remember, it's not just the numbers. It is about the measures which you have taken to ensure that the utmost security and efficiency of our data is safeguarded. Our Oracle databases, as well as the SQL Server databases, they incorporate advanced security features, including robust AE6256 encryption that ensures that the data which we have is actually encrypted both at rest as well as transit from the server to the client. And last but not the least, we also have 99.95% of a remarkable uptime for our databases, and they also undergo rigorous patching both for security as well as critical updates. So now I'm just going to pass it on to Tina, who is our Chief Information Security Officer, CISO.
Good morning, everyone. I lead the Enterprise IT Security Division. We help lead the county's effort to manage information risk within an appropriate cyber risk appetite. Our mission is to provide oversight activities that govern all IT security initiatives, ensuring all IT services are working towards a common goal of protecting our county assets from cyber attacks. We work to educate data owners and users of their responsibility to protect county digital assets. We invest resources in protecting county data and enhance response capabilities in the event a cyber incident occurs. We are not the division of no, as it might be assumed as being within security, but we are the division of yes, but, whose vision is to align cybersecurity standards with business needs without compromising innovation. Our security program is built around the NIST security framework, which is 5 pieces within a life cycle of identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. We maintain an inventory of assets and processes that may be vulnerable to cyber attacks and ensure protection procedures are in place for these assets. We implement monitoring processes to alert staff to deviations from our baselines and ensure procedures are in place to quickly isolate and mitigate any threats. We're also prepared to restore services and improve protections from the threat. So highlighting a couple components of our security program. We are continuously scanning our network to identify assets, discover vulnerabilities, and ensure compliance of our devices and access. Data classification allows for organizing data in order to identify ownership, location, and access rights. This has grown with the storing of unstructured data. Up to date, we've had a lot of structured data. We have regulatory requirements behind PII, but with more storage of videos and pictures, we rely on our data owners to navigate how do we protect this data. Security awareness training promotes the education of end users to recognize and mitigate a threat actor. Our endpoint protection utilizes artificial intelligence and machine learning in order to protect our endpoints from vulnerabilities, zero-day attacks, and ensure compliance. User behavior analytics allow for the learning of normal operations and detecting when actions may be a potential threat to our network. Incident response planning allows for allocating and educating staff on their roles and responsibilities in the event of a cybersecurity incident. And also lastly, we have an on-prem computer forensics lab, and we employ digital forensic analysts within our staff so that we are able to quickly gather evidence and begin the root cause of an incident, as well as be able to highlight any additional areas of concern without necessarily waiting for a third party. So down to a few metrics for our area. On a given month, we do block 90 to 98% of email from ever getting to an end user's inbox. Last year alone, county staff reported over 8,700 emails that appeared to be suspicious, and our staff was able to use response techniques to quickly provide feedback to the end user, let them know of any potential false positives, and then continue to build that relationship with end users to come in contact with us if they see anything. County staff has done an amazing job with reporting emails that we've seen from our simulated fish campaign. For every one user who clicks on a link, there are 6 others who report it back to us. So I would like to acknowledge county staff for doing their part in being cyber smart. And with that, I'll hand it over to Amy, our finance director.
Good morning. I just wanted to highlight some of the responsibilities that make us a little different than other finance divisions within the county. As the countywide technology-related resource manager, we are responsible for reviewing 50 to 100 orders per week coming from other departments who are looking to buy software or hardware. Our role is to ensure that all purchases comply with standards, are compatible with existing systems, and don't compromise security. As the primary bill payer for county telephone bills, we are processing monthly telephone bills for over 50 accounts over 5 different providers. We need to make sure that those bills get allocated appropriately and paid timely to ensure no service interruptions. Included in these responsibilities are the processing of cell phone orders as well as cell phone stipends that we audit monthly. Lastly, with just under 4,000 assets, we are one of the largest departments in terms of the quantity and complexity of items that we need to keep track of, literally having assets smaller than a pen and data closets throughout the county and some even outside of the county. I'll turn it over to Mike now, who likes to buy the expensive assets.
Let me be the first to say good afternoon, commissioners. I'm going to pop through a couple of the areas that Network Services is responsible for really quickly. We provide connectivity for all the data, video, and voice communications throughout the county, as well as to required state and federal agencies. This includes connectivity not just for computers, but for all connected devices, including access control systems, security cameras, irrigation systems, traffic systems, mobile units, including POMTRAN buses, fire rescue vehicles, animal care and PZB field staff, and many other systems. We also handle all the video conferencing and the video systems throughout the county, including the room systems, enterprise systems such as WebEx and Zoom, and video visitation systems within the jails, as well as first appearance systems for the courts. For secure and internet and intranet services, we maintain the perimeter security systems, including our next generation firewalls and associated security systems that monitor all the traffic into and out of the Palm Beach County network. This includes the load balancing systems that ensure high availability of all the applications, and as well as screening of inbound email for security and spam purposes. The security team also manages secure remote access for both vendors and employees. And speaking of that, the VPNs, we handle all secure remote access, and we also handle secure remote tunnels or connectivity to trusted state and federal agencies and private partners as well. On the voice communications side, we maintain over 2,000 cellular devices, including cell phones, MiFi units, and specialty devices with embedded cellular service. We also maintain over 10,000 voice over IP telephones and 17 contact centers for all county agencies, constitutional officers, and we also maintain telephony for 3 cities. On the collaboration side of the house, we provide a number of services for all the agencies on the network, including providing connectivity and internet service to over 20 cities, the school district, the healthcare district, Palm Beach State College, Florida Atlantic University, as well as several other smaller government agencies. Just to review a few of the big numbers really quickly, we have the largest private fiber local government network in the southeastern United States. We have over 1,200 miles of our own fiber in the ground. We have over 523 connected facilities, over 4,500 network management devices, including routers, switches, wireless access points, 35,000 connected client devices, not just computers, but like I mentioned earlier, everything on the network from sprinkler systems to POMTRAN buses to everything is connected. We haul about 4 quadrillion bytes of data a month through our core routers. We handle about 950 terabytes of internet data monthly. That's on the download side. That doesn't even include the upload side. Like I mentioned, 10,000 voice over IP phones, which handle about 500,000 calls monthly. 17 contact centers with 500 agents, and they average about 350,000 calls monthly. That obviously goes up when we have an incident such as a hurricane, where we're standing up our contact, or specialty contact center for that, or a presidential election, things like that, those numbers generally explode. We handle 10 million public Wi-Fi sessions a month at all our government facilities, at county libraries, and we're starting to expand that access to our parks. And we process about 4 million inbound emails a month, 97% of which is spam. This slide shows how we started on the collaboration route. We are connected to a network, a statewide network called the Florida Lambda Rail, which in turn connects to a national network called the National Lambda Rail. It also connects to Internet 2, which is used for research purposes by libraries and schools and colleges. But we were the first local government to connect fiber directly to the Florida Lambda Rail, and as such, we became an early collaborative partner with them. And this led to us becoming an aggregator, and they refer anybody within Palm Beach County to come to us for connectivity to Florida Lambda Rail. Their mission is to service healthcare, education, government, and economic development. So anybody that goes to them that wants connectivity within Palm Beach County to the Florida Lambda Rail is referred back to us, and because of our large fiber footprint, we're able to facilitate that connectivity. And we charge them for the service, so we're actually bringing some money back in. And I'm going to hand it over to our Platform Services Director now, Santosh Samuel.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So Platform Service Division, our mission is to ensure reliable, responsive, survivable, and cost-effective methods for storing, retrieving, processing, and protecting county vital information. Platform Services hosts and administer critical county enterprise information system. Just to name a few, just county financial system, a human resource system, email and archiving, enterprise reporting, backup and recovery, and also our data centers, which I'll talk about later. Platform Services' key responsibilities include application and database hosting, desktop support, data storage and recovery, a comprehensive security program, 24/7 enterprise-wide help desk operation, network printing, and providing web access to employees, citizens, and businesses. The division includes the following sections. We have our customer care center, which consists of desktop support and our help desk, enterprise system services, which is managing our data center and printing, and we have our server administration services group. I'm going to touch on these points on the PowerPoint slide. First one here we're going to talk about is email and archiving. Email, as you know, plays a very vital role to the county's operational processes. And for enhanced reliability and redundancy, email is replicated across our data center. So there is no data loss, no downtime. Also, enterprise reporting, our mission is to provide critical reports to all agencies and constitutional agencies using our internal business intelligence platform. Our backups are protected and recoverable. It is also replicated across our data centers. These backups are immutable, which means they cannot be altered or deleted by viruses, malware, ransomware, etc. We also provide hosting services for constitutional agencies, their applications, servers, and other resources. We also provide IT customer service through first call resolution, incident and service request management. And lastly, we provide desktop services to all agencies, BCC agencies, for break-fix upgrades for hardware or software upgrades. The next slide, I'm just going to talk briefly about some metrics just to showcase the amount of systems we manage. So if you look at the button there on the left side for servers, so between physical and virtual servers in the county that we manage today, it's over 1,800 systems, and that's growing on a daily basis based on the projects we manage or we're involved in. Storage, this is all internal storage. We have 6 petabytes of private cloud storage. In another way to say that, it's 6 million gigabytes. 1.7 petabytes of flash storage is just a faster tier of storage. And then we have close to 600 terabytes of file system data, 41 terabytes of logs. So if you take all of that into account, it's around 9 petabytes or 9 million gigabytes. We process approximately 120,000 emails per day. We have around 9,900 mailboxes. We operate 3 physically hardened geodiverse data centers in the state of Florida. This provides us a very comprehensive redundant area where we're redundant across our network, our server, and our application layers. Gives us the baseline, if you want to call it, for reliability and performance. And I'm going to turn it over to Archie now.
Thanks, Antosh. So let me try to bring this home. So we have some non-divisional sections in our area where we have the quality assurance. That program oversees the testing and documentation of our applications, especially the ones developed by Amit's team. And this group ended up having a working knowledge of the business process related to the application, so they work very closely with the departments as they gather requirements so they understand that business operation as best as they could. We have a training program that is designed to provide our end user with the skills required to efficiently and completely utilize the various software products employed throughout the county. These software products include, but are not limited, Microsoft suite of products, the business object crystal reporting, and our homegrown applications. One of the more familiar ones is a county-wide GIS program. The Geographic Information System program is established to support the core business functions of the county by providing timely, accurate, and meaningful geographic information. The GIS Service Bureau provides data distribution and service to the county agencies, other public sector agencies, private sector organizations, and the general public. Data is maintained and published in the enterprise system, providing public access to GIS data via MyGeoNav and the GIS data catalog. And the GIS Service Bureau and Countywide GIS is a collaboration of a multitude of agencies, including property appraiser, the sheriff, the school district. We have a full conglomerate apart from the county agencies that we work together to ensure that the data is correct and is accessible for use. So now we'll take a look at just the service we provide and the customers we support. So we support the county departments and offices. We have 48 external agencies that we support, and we support the elected constitutional officers. We provide quality technical support and next-gen technologies to these areas that we do. Service offered, we're an internet service provider for a lot of our municipalities and the county as a whole. Mike provides network services. We provide disaster services through Santosh, GIS hosting, unified communication. As Mike mentioned, we provide phones for 3 municipalities. Tina goes and trains in cybersecurity awareness. They can contract with us to do cybersecurity awareness training. We do desktop support inside and business applications. Next slide. So some of the benefits that we have for partnering and providing these services allow for the fast adoption of new technologies. We have improved services to the constituents. There's a reduction in costs. There's an intergovernmental cooperation and a more efficient workforce. And the greater network bandwidth capabilities help us to provide access to local government that we are able to help them to meet their required needs. Next slide. So accountability. IS has implemented several important measures of accountability, including strategic planning, a formal timekeeping system, a detailed cost allocation plan, monthly invoices for customer billing, and performance indicator for ISS programs. And some of our key success factors, as you see, support from the Board of County Commissioners and County Administration, adequate funding through the annual budget process. We have a robust information technology infrastructure. We're a full service shop. We collaborate through service agreements. We have quality staff and highly experienced and capable. And we have accountability measures and strong customer relations. And just even sit at the table here, We have a lot of years, just a few right here. I think between Mike and I, we probably have close to 70 years. And then everybody, 20 years, 10, 15 years. So there's a lot of talent and a lot of tenure here. Infrastructure investments, we invest in fiber optic network, as we heard before, enterprise storage, internal developed business applications, do third-party software, unified communications, the data center, and of course, cybersecurity. And just to take a quick look at government business and technology trends. The government business trends, there's still a continued demand for more accountability and openness in government operations, so along with an increase for online access for services. There's transformative technologies that have changed what and how things are done, and there's a change in the nature of work and an uptick in the multi-skilled workers. So we have to really account for that as we look in, as we plan or do our strategic planning to ensure that we take these into consideration. End users are looking to engage across agencies when and how they prefer to communicate. So we're not in the mode anymore of just providing one type of communication. People want to use their phones, they want to use different types. So we have to ensure that we do that. And we achieve economies of scale by collaborating and providing standardized services. I'll just mention a few of these emerging technology trends that's coming. You heard about it here, artificial intelligence. You hear that on the news every day, day in and day out. It can adapt, be able to based on experience, which are spawning massive change in government and transforming our work is getting done. PBC currently utilize AI for cybersecurity and monitoring tools. We're also conducting proof of concept to stand up our own internal modeling platform to provide additional capabilities to our agencies. And from a security standpoint, we'd really like to do that, do an internal platform that we can look at our data so it's not exposed or we're not bringing contaminated data in when we're trying to do our analysis, when the agencies try to do that. Data analytics is an autonomous or a semi-autonomous examination of data and content using advanced techniques and tools. Data classification is an important part of this trend, and with the explosion of generative AI, it is now critical for privacy and security. So data classification is going to play a big role as we move forward looking at our AI. The explosion of mobile technology is rapidly moving to the next level, including wearables that will keep people constantly connected, and the 5G network will result in lower latency, lower power consumption, and faster speeds overall. Just to toot our horn a little bit, ISS, in partnership with the BCC agencies and constitutional officers, has received numerous technology awards as we aspire for excellence in competition with our peers. Our success is recognized not only through the continued support of the Board of County Commissioners and County Administration, but also through the receipt of multiple awards for IT excellence, including awards from the Center of Digital Government, National Association of Counties, Florida Local Government Information System Association, or FLGISA. The county has received another overall technology award that we cannot speak in detail about until the middle of next month. Sworn to secrecy. So as we wrap up, ISS provides key and critical support for our strategic partners and our infrastructure, and especially with our custom-built business applications. We have been doing this for a long time, and other government agencies reach out to us to implement solutions we have built as they are quality industrial products. I'm sure that the department heads will agree that the solutions we offer provide for efficiencies, effectiveness, and help to streamline their operations. The cost savings to be able to merge off-the-shelf solutions with our custom development is evident by the repository of applications we have in our toolbox. Having a robust infrastructure gives us the ability to scale as we need and be self-sufficient, especially in case of emergency situations. Our investment in cybersecurity is keeping us safe as best as we can, and although most times we're not on the bleeding edge, we are on the leading edge, and this is evident by the recognition in the IT industry. Thank you for allowing us to present today, and we're here to take any questions. Yes, I know the mayor's got a lot of questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that presentation. I must say I'm overwhelmed at how many different departments and other groups that you support. I didn't know. I have had a presentation with you, but wow, good job.
Thank you.
My one question is, I know you mentioned constitutional officers. I guess that means all of them. And you said school board and municipalities and other departments. As far as budget, I know like our budget kind of, we allocate money for all of the constitutional officers, but for budgets that we don't operate, like the school board or any of the municipalities? Do you know how much revenue you generate?
That 9.1 million
I'm sorry, I
revenue that we
missed that.
inherited slide there.
9.1 million.
9.1 million, that's our revenue that we collect. So we're at 38.1 million ad valorem budget, but we get 9.1 in revenue, so our impact's about $28 million.
But just to be clear, that revenue is outside of county budget.
You're right. Yeah, that offset, it gets offset in our ad valorem impact.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Commissioner Baxter, you recognize.
Hi.
Hi, morning.
Thank you for the information. We've had, I feel like we've had a lot of technology meetings lately. I love technology, so I'm always excited to see how we can do things and maybe make them even more friendly. I would like to ask again, why or where have we looked at why we're still using Microsoft as a functioning system within our emails and everything when like Google and Google Drives and everything make so much more, I wouldn't say sense, but it just makes everything easier.
It's just different camps. I mean, we've been a Microsoft shop forever. I mean, Microsoft's a leader in that technology. Google is too, but we've been Microsoft for a while. There didn't seem a need to move to another. And some security aspects of it too that we'd want to keep it. Because right now we have our stuff on-prem, not in the cloud in terms of email at this point in time. So we believe we have a better handle over it using that. And Mike can jump in.
Yeah, there's a lot of, especially with Google services, there are a lot of security constraints and risks that we would not be in control of, especially in terms of like things like e-discovery and things like that. There's a lot of risk to going to something like that where we're not in control of that data. So.
And to add to that, I mean, in the future, when we're even ever forced by Microsoft to not be on-prem, I think it's a time to then look and see what the players are having. Because at some point, Microsoft's going to say, you can't have an on-prem solution anymore.
Would you say that anything is 100% proof?
No. No, it's not. There's nothing that's 100% proof.
So if we had to compare what you thought the risks were for Microsoft versus Google, what would you say they are?
The fact that we are on-prem, I think we have a better handle around what we have today. If we go to M365, it's a different conversation. I think that we had a different conversation at that point in time. But for what we have now, I think we're a little bit more secure in what we do today because we're not exposed.
Are we planning to go to that?
When Microsoft forces us to go, because eventually I think they're going to say they won't, but they keep offering you an on-prem solution, and we still believe that's the best one for us at this point in time. And yeah, they're a certified government partner.
How do you analyze the risk versus user friendliness? I mean, I think with all technology, right, the less user friendly, I guess it's a little more secure, but we can't really use it to its full potential.
Well,
as easily, I should say.
We've been on Microsoft since 2007. So we've been on there for a while. The staff is used to it. I mean, a lot of people use Microsoft at home, they use Google at home, but in the county, they're just used to using that technology right now. As I said, not saying that we would not look at it in the future, but at this point, the products work. I mean, we've been using it forever. So I believe it could go to any camp, just like you could go to Amazon, to Microsoft Azure, to Google in terms of a cloud storage. It just depends on which camp. And some people are used to Google, but a lot of people are used to Microsoft. So that's just that part of it. It's going to be an uplift to pay to move while we have purchased these licenses. I think it's cost effectiveness and supportability that we have. I think that's where we are right now. And there's not been an ask actually to go to Google Docs since you have talked about it.
I think I mean, I've used in my professional life, I've used Microsoft. And as, at the Palm Beach County School District, they use Google Drive. I'm fairly familiar with both, but I just find one is a lot more user-friendly. I wouldn't say it's just because, you're not used to it, but it gives you a lot of extra services. So thank you for that question. Just a couple more. Where do we stand on the permitting software?
I think Patrick would be best to answer that at this point, but they're working with that vendor that we looked at, and I guess they're working through that. So once that's finalized where they're going, then we will look how we're going to integrate that into, if they go forward to do that. As I mentioned, we have a lot of things in the toolbox, and we look at all these vendors when they come up and see how we can implement. We actually were on a meeting just the other day with another vendor that it looks promising that we can look to integrate that into our ePCB platform. So we're going to explore that also. But a lot of these take integration, making sure we're not introducing security risks. So from a technical standpoint, that's where we are going to come from. But from a functional standpoint, PCB has to say, okay, yeah, we're going to move forward. And we just come from, okay, how can we integrate this securely? But I think that's moving forward, if I'm not mistaken.
And I think the other part of that was we were waiting to confirm if they were sole source or not.
I think
Has that been confirmed?
Not sure about that.
That has not been confirmed as of yesterday when I talked to Patrick. We are looking at that resource, and we've got to jump through a number of hoops in order to say something is sole source. So we are looking at it. It's been through zoning and planning, so they've given their input, and we'll get you an update on it.
Okay, amazing. And just lastly, I would like to, give direction with the board's, support. One of the things I encountered when digging into our budget was how, when I had asked for something, right, I asked for, please hand me this budget or please give me this. I literally received a 3 to 4 inch binder in my office of line item numbers with absolutely no key to it. And, it's a little bit annoying, but I thought it drew out an obvious need for a software, that potentially us commissioners could type in, ask, look for something, and it take us to that part of the budget. And it has been mentioned to me that I guess line item budgets are not effective for the sheriff's department for security reasons, but if every other department we could be able to look in and see what's going on, I think that would be great. We shouldn't have to piecemeal getting budgeting information. There should be a query, a box, this department, office supplies, this department, whatever. I'm giving very silly examples, but I think you get the picture of what I'm saying. It shouldn't have to be so difficult to find these answers, and I would like to see us pursue a software that would allow us to better or easily do that, more easily do that.
And you're looking at budget or expenditure?
Budget, well, the entire budget, expenditures, revenues, everything.
We'll look at that. Part of it is going to be with the clerk if we want very accurate data. They write the checks. We do the invoices, we send it to them. They then will write the check if the appropriate documentation is there. We are happy to share that. We have an online budget today. You can go online and pull that up. I'll follow up with you. I'm not quite sure where
Because
we're
you
going
can't
with
search
this.
it. You literally have to read through every single page to find information. There's no query function to it.
AI, LLM. LLM.
Yeah,
Uploaded into
yeah,
the models.
couple ideas, but yeah, we'll look. I mean, we'll look at even with our vendor. We'll see what they have to, because we have a vendor that handles our budget.
Should be relatively easy to do that.
Well, we have to.
You can get it as a PDF and.
Yeah, we just have to get the
load
palms
it up
around it.
and then search it.
Yeah, we have to get the palms around it. Okay.
Just for a minute.
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, you're
Thank
recognized. Oh, I'm
you.
sorry. Are you finished? Okay. Vice Mayor, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. Information is power, and I really appreciate what y'all have been doing. And I appreciate any new ideas that we can have to get us into the end of the 20th century, beginning of the 21st. With that in mind, what are we planning to do about artificial intelligence? And as you move into that space, will you be able to connect with county commissioners as to how we can handle that part of the new technology?
So AI is the big thing, and the mayor is on NACO's AI Explorer Committee also. As a matter of fact, I was just on a panel for Center for Digital Government on artificial intelligence, especially with in terms of cybersecurity. And I was one of the panelists there. But we're looking, as I said before, we're looking to stand up our internal one. But also during that, Amazon was on that panel with me, and they have a thing I'm going to look into where for education, especially for educational purpose, because one of the biggest things, we have to educate our staff to all the capabilities of AI and educate the users on a whole of what can be achieved. So I'm actually going to reach out to them to see what that is that they offer in that training. But we are, right now, we are probably neck deep looking into AI, and because we have to make sure how we do it. Security is a big thing. There's a lot of things around it that we have to ensure that we put good policies in place. The privacy aspect, there's a lot of things. That's why I explained that we want to have our internal one to keep our information for us, and have an external one that you can search the broad universe to get information. We don't want people putting proprietary information into the commercial engines where all of a sudden our information is out in the wild. So we're as I said to them, I'm very excited about AI, but I'm also cautious right behind it. So, we're looking to really move forward with AI to see how it can help to streamline all of our operations today.
Thank you so much for that. And I was wondering, Ms. Baker, as they proceed, as we in the county proceed on this journey of keeping ahead of technology and security, I wonder if we could have maybe a report in a couple of months, nothing that we need to look at right now, but this is an issue that is very, very important for our communication, our information, and our security. And I wonder if at some point we could get a report back about AI, how it's affecting our information technologies, our security. And that way we can be prepared before, it's here, I know. But so that we can be prepared to use it without being used by it.
Right.
We could. Thank you, Ms. Baker.
And if you don't mind, Vice Mayor, so again, there's two portions to AI. You heard us talk about it in our back-end process. We use a lot of AI, a lot of machine learning. The big buzz one is what they call generative AI. That's the big thing that's coming now, and that's the one that we have to, that's where a lot of end users are. It's going to touch a lot of people with generative AI. So that's where we're going to probably focus more if we're going to look at how we're going to implement that within the county.
All right. I have a couple questions. So, what's the biggest threat to cyber security for the county?
Before Tina answers, people.
You want to say that again?
People. So employees, people. That's the biggest threat to cybersecurity. There's not any system. That's why I say it's not 100% foolproof. Once that human is involved, all bets are off. Because you could train, you could do anything,
Yeah, and for us particularly, because of the business that the county does in interacting with citizens and other vendors, it's the third-party risk in the supply chain. So we can be doing everything right, we can educate our employees, but they have to interact. And when we have things where other people may not, we'll have the interactions of the phishing emails and stuff that look like they came from the trusted. So I would say third-party at this point.
So it's really up to everybody who has access to our systems to be the safeguards or be the guardians, if you will, of our security.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. All right. I just want to reiterate and share with, I guess, my support in what Commissioner Baxter was talking about. You guys did a phenomenal job with the PAPA application. I mean, that's just, it's the best I've ever seen. Of course, I don't know what everybody uses, but it's so easy to use and so much information readily available. It would be great if our permitting and code were as easy to find information out, just go on to and then also, which sort of plays into GIS, there's so many layers that folks have developed that we don't have access to. I mean, they have it within departments, and some of it may be security issues, like I know where the water lines, I'm sure Wood does not want to know where people to know where those main water lines are exactly, and things that might be secure. But I've seen some really amazing layers in GIS, and so being able to do permits and code as a GIS layer would be phenomenal.
It's there, so we'll
it
look
is
into that.
there.
Yeah, the GIS, the PCB uses a lot of GIS in there. And just to say, thanks to Dorothy for the property appraiser with that POP application. I mean, that's her vision, and we just helped her to bring it forward. I mean, that was really her vision. And we're working diligently with the PCB department right now to bring a lot of new things, new look to the forefront to figure. I mean, I talked about it earlier. We're working with Microsoft to look at their engine, how we can have somebody go through and put a question in to do something and just start taking them through their information and getting them right to where they can apply for that permit and what they need.
Yeah, and a lot of those GIS layers you mentioned that are infrastructure layers, those are protected from release by state statute and by Homeland Security because they're considered critical infrastructure.
Well, we'll look at see what
But I
can be
mean, it
available.
was interesting. I mean, I saw a layer, right, that showed everybody who was on septic, right? I mean, and you see these big blue patches, and you're like, oh my goodness.
There's a lot of data there.
I mean, there's some really amazing data, and really, it's eye-opening to when we have an opportunity to see it. One of the other thoughts, is working with the public. So, single point of contact is always, if they can come in instead of having to search through our website and try and find the department within, then, drill down into that to find whatever it is that they're looking for. And I know you're doing a lot of work trying to get us chatbots and things, but I think anything we can do to speed that up, to make it easier and simpler for people. Because right now, if you do a search, you put a term in, and you'll get lots of stuff that's not relevant to what you're looking for, and then you've got to go through that and try and filter out what it is. So I think anything we can do to make the user's experience from outside better. And then on the community services side, I know there's so many different programs and things that are available to assist people. Again, if they just had one application to fill out and then use intelligence to figure out, oh, they qualify for this program, this program, this program, and have that come back and just, a tick box to say, yeah, let's move forward with this.
Yeah, we're actually working on that with, actually, we're doing a proof of concept with a company called Zamo through, not only Zamo, but also with AWS. We're working with them to look at something, how we can do that right now to ensure.
That'd be phenomenal, because so many
Bernard.
times people they're qualified for things, they sign up for one thing, but they miss something else because they weren't aware that they qualified for it. And then the emergencies happen, and then they're calling our offices or calling community services. We could have been proactive.
Yeah, we're working closely with them.
We're working with AWS to a proof of concept with AWS, Amazon Web Services, to actually they have a client matching algorithm. So basically, when a client comes in, we match them against all different databases which we have access to, whether it's homegrown as well as outside databases like ClientTrack. And then if there are other services which is available, we let them aware of that. But at the same lines, we're actually working with Zamo as well as Azure Microsoft, which is another product which is out there, which basically what we do is we take all the frequently asked questions which are there in different places on our website. All we do is throw it into the repository. And they claim they have artificial intelligence, but we are doing a proof of concept. So with artificial intelligence and the machine learning, you ask them any question, it's just going to be a chatbot which is sitting there, which is going to actually ingest all this data from different departments and give you some answers, and then take you to the right link. So we're working on a proof of concept with Microsoft as well on that. So.
Yeah, we're really digging deep into these, especially with AI availability. And as you saw, Amit's toolbox, it's in there. That's what we're looking at right now. So we're doing a lot with that. As I said, AWS, Amazon, Microsoft, we're working with everybody to take a look at what's there, so how we can really do the right thing.
All right. Well, those were my questions. Oh, I guess the last one. I didn't realize you were involved in traffic systems. I was going to hold engineering on feet to the fire on this.
The network.
The only thing we're doing is connecting point A to point B. We don't control any other
Okay.
signals.
We're not controlling it.
Then I'll save my.
We're I-95. That's all we are. We're I-95.
Okay. All right. Well, then, thank you very much. Does anybody else have any questions? No? I just want to say thank you. Thank you to your staff that's here. Thank you to the interns and the work that you do for us as well, because you're an important part of our future, no doubt. And I think the best testament is the fact that our systems are always up. You're available, and we're able to access and get the information that we need. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. All right, I guess we're on to comments. Is there, I guess we don't have comments, but I will ask if anybody has any comments. We can start with Commissioner Barnett. Do you have any comments? No? No? Commissioner Sachs? Baxter? No? All right. Okay, well, in that case then, if there is nothing else for the good of the order, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.